I just gotta start with the beautiful flowers at. Beautiful flowers. Wow. I just love that. Here in the concrete jungle from Montreal, Hakala, Montreal, gonna commence begin with gratitude. You know where we're heading. We're heading to my second home. Gonna make sure I close my, it's a no spend no money today. Towards the sun, towards the mountain. Was a bit moody, but have to begin with my gratitude, you know. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and got coffee, and when I get back I got some sweets. Got some sweets. So after this, minimum 5 hours today, because yesterday did 4 hours and the day before, because today is Wednesday, July 9th, for the Democratic Imperial Republic, for the youth, for the butchers, for the bakers, for the nurses, for the doctors, for the firefighters, plumbers, electricians, the welders. Gonna salute the youth. They're happy, joyous. I'm happy. That's what matters. Their joy. Liberty, security. And I got my eyes on them like a hawk, you know. HAWK, hot day today. Another scorching days coming over the weekend. Another third one. I think Europe is undergoing a little bit of that. More difficult weather in Europe, from what I could tell, from what I've been listening on the news, because you know how it is with me. I'm an artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst, and strategist and mystic. I heard there was record-breaking heat waves. I got my sunscreen if ever need be. Welcome to another journey, July 9th. And I'm also a YouTuber, so I guess I'm gonna add the being a YouTuber dimension. Gonna salute the bus drivers of the empire coming near you, the Democratic Imperial Republic, or the Republican Imperial Democracy, which are gonna fuse Canada and United States via my Trinity of theories and create a complex, parallel but North American centric to the European Union, with a strong defense security service and component to it. You can check for my past videos, and of course we're gonna discuss my philosophies and propositions and call to the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which is my dream, of course, for fusing via strong PPP, public-private partnership, Canada, United States for the 21st century. As I salute the bus drivers. So what am I moody? And I was moody a bit. I said, what are you moody? Think about the firefighters. Think about Texas relief operations. Think about the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, the daycare workers changing some diapers. Well, my only stress now, to be honest, is just financial, economic, commercial, and that's large in part large due to me having this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's. So I'm an Aspie, I have Asperger's, and gonna discuss it a little bit. I just want to give my gratitude again, you know, as we're marching east. This beautiful sun towards the mountain, because it's been 4 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and of course Tuesday. Yesterday I went to see a movie, so gonna do a little bit of a movie review. Ballerina, want to watch it again, really loved it. Ballerina was, now I'm calling for of course the actors and those, how much it made gross domestic. I don't know how much it made, but I'm calling for 1% donation to Texas relief operations. And here we're gonna hydrate a bit. I'm just gonna wait a few seconds. Usually I wait about 10 seconds. Gonna give some salutations, because this was built here last year, and of course this allows us to hydrate when we're going out, working out, training, exercising. And you know, it is the public workers who build it, you know, so I gotta give a little bit. But what I let the pipes clear, you know, because sometimes there's a little bit of that pipe operation, so we gotta clear on the go. So now we're gonna hydrate. Usually 10-20 seconds, that's the amount I wait for it to clear, you know. So here we go. Oh yeah. When you're thirsty, water tastes like juice. Bye. Enjoy. That's my fellow worker there who's doing a little bit of that work, you know. And he's there doing a little bit of that work with that. And all fellow workers there, my cousins, my brothers and sisters here, my aunties of the North American Collective, you know. That's how I roll with all who come to join us here in the Confederation. But with my brothers and sisters, the king is absent, you know. It's time for the Republic, and it's time to fuse Canada, United States bet. I guess you got enough of my face. And so that's how we're gonna do it, man. And that's how we're gonna rock and roll. And you got the dog parks. You got this Montreal Hawk Island, HAWK, Island of the Hawk, and you got this Rainbow Dragon going. Gonna take that traditional march. What I meant to say is that usually most of the time, you know, in my marches I go to the mountain and I take kind of the same route and the same routine, but sometimes we change. We go by the river, you know. Asperger's, people like myself with Aspies were Aspies, and again, Asperger's is not a mental illness, it's a neurodivergence. And people like myself, we have these routines, ritualized routines, and gotta watch for the children there to be safe. So you cross the street and turn your heads left and right 3 times, and that's how we gotta turn our heads, you know, because you never know, the brakes malfunction. If the brakes malfunction, the citizen driver presses the accelerator, you know. That's always a possibility. And here you got a little bit of food, so if you want to take some of that food, there's here available for you. You can take it and take what you want, leave what you want. And I'm not gonna take today because I took yesterday, you know, but gotta leave for somebody else. And this is another food pantry, and here if you need some of that, I guess I'm gonna take one of these. It's got some sugar and salt. I'm gonna take three of those, and you got plenty of those, I guess, you know. So this is, we're gonna close it properly, you know. Yeah, and then go roundabout and gonna zigzag it in. And yeah, this is some utensils, which is always good to have around. And I gotta disinfect them when I get back home. I usually disinfect all products because I try to keep, to the best of my ability, the protocols of COVID protocols, and that's just how we gotta be, you know. And I got a lot of things to be grateful for, you know. It's like carpe diem it every day. I always joke, and I say not jokingly, but you know, if anything happens on the mountain there, because the branches sometimes fall, or if it's stormy or thunder and I go at night and I don't come back, I always say to my anonymous friend, whom I'm gonna ask again, propose an engagement for marriage, but it's gonna be a special one because I'm part of the LGBTQ. I'm androgynous pansexual. You know, you get that 50-50 man, woman, androgynous pansexual, but I has to be buried a third of me, 1/3 of the Mount Royal at the Belvedere, top of the Belvedere, a third of me sent in Egypt in the pyramids, where I was a priestess many times in a past life, and a farmer, and I was making beer at one point in ancient Egypt for those who build the pyramids, brewing beer, that is. So sometimes I was higher ranking, sometimes I was just a farmer. It's that wheat, that barley, those grapes, you know, those pomegranates. Sometimes I was a high-ranking priestess, many times in ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, and Pythia in the Oracle of Delphi. And I actually orated the Great Erythrea, orated the Great Erythrea. Was he a real person, Lycurgus? Was he not mythical? Lycurgus, who says yes, who says no? Let's have a vote. Was he a real, actual person, Lycurgus? Lycurgus, the one who, of course, supposedly did the great constitution of Sparta between 1100 BC and 700 BC. Keep in mind that that's 400 years, right? So, when did he really exist? Was it 700 BC or was it, of course, 1100 BC? But that's when we go, of course, in ancient history, you know, that's, and remember that the stories from the Bible, Holy Torah, Holy Text, you know. When I go back, and I'm a mystic, but God said, you know, we're gonna say God bless the coming empire, and also Goddess kiss, you know, because I got those trillions of kisses for all my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, North Americans, brothers and sisters in the USA, in the 10 provinces, 50 states and 3 territories, and all who come to join us, and whoever is gonna fuse with us and ally with us, you know. I got 718 trillions of kisses, and that's what it is with that, and that's how I gotta get doing with that for the go, and that's why they gotta get that appellation, you know, for the left, right, and Z. And you got my aunties there, my great family here around the bar when I go, you know. There's always something which I gotta be prudent of, and I gotta give a salutation to the sky a little bit. Just a beautiful sky. You gotta go that rock and roll. On the route on me you go, on the plains and on the go, on the east and west and north and south. And we're grateful here, you know, we got big concrete jungle, big concrete. Construction workers, y'all rock and roll with that big building there that you built on those cranes. I always gotta give a shout out. Construction workers, butchers, firefighters, LOV. Firefighters, construction workers, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. The firefighters, electricians, plumbers, hey, also the nurses, and also big working to the daycare workers, you know. The daycare workers who change some diapers, it's something which we have to appreciate, you know. That's always something which I appreciate, you know, some of those daycare workers. And as an aspiring children's books author, but I'm actually an author who wrote children's books, but unfortunately did not publish because I didn't have $500, you know, and $500, you know, to publish, and that's all we got, and didn't have $500 to publish, you know, because it costs a little agent cost, and that's what it is for that. I gotta salute the bus drivers. I admire, you know, bus drivers like something to be admired. It's always something which I admire as work, you know. As I cross this street here prudently, and we're gonna take a zigzag, and we're gonna go in, and that's how we're gonna go, like that, see, talk. So I always wonder why the number is 40. See those details, it's an Aspie thing, and now that I'm on the subject, I'm gonna discuss the Asperger thing. See, 40 and 44, 40 and 44, 40 and 44, 40 and 44. No, see on the side of the bus, 40 and 44 there. So that's a peculiar Asperger's things. That's a peculiar Asperger's things, and that Asperger's-ness is something which, of course, we have to get to discuss now. So that, what you saw right there, is just a characteristic of Asperger's. So Aspies, we focus on special weird details, on special weird details, you know, and on special weird details, and that's what we have, and that's how we go, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and doing with the XYZ and the left and right, and I gotta appreciate these flowers here. So Asperger's now. I have Asperger's. It's a neurological mental divergent condition. In certain things I am less able, less capable, and mediocre and average at social interactions and social awareness. So Aspie brains, we're mutated, you know, we're mutated, you know, and that's what it is. That's what it is with that. We're mutated. We have mutations, you know, and those mutations of the brain makes us that we have special interests, and makes us that we are weird socially. You know, we can be very weird and awkward and bizarre socially, you know, social interactions. But wow, what a beautiful flowers! Look at those. Just want to take a few for my anonymous friend at home, but no, I won't. I'm just saying that she deserves, my anonymous friend, big flowers like this, a big bouquet once. Maybe I'm gonna get some when I'm gonna propose, but I don't have a proper ring, I guess, because she deserves to have $1 million ring, like 11 times bigger than that. Lauren Sanchez, who married Jeff Bezos. And you see, it's just because it popped in the news, but Aspies, we're not interested in that much in private lives. It's just that when I was doing geopolitics, it was in the news because it was supposedly very costly. It cost like 220 million, supposedly. So it just popped in the news, but I'm not somebody, Aspies, usually we don't seek, you know, information like this. We don't usually care that much about gossips and tabloids, and I see somebody holding hands here there. Always gives me some joy. My fellow youth there, there's some loving. But so though I'm going to discuss Asperger's now, because it's important to understand and to what to expect if you ever engage, want to commission, want to do work, want to do whatever business, whatever you want, pledge your allegiance to the kingdom, the empire, and Democratic Imperial Republic by the fusion of the 10 and the 50 and the 3, the 63, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership, right? And the implementation of my Trinity theories. Or if you want to be a friends with benefits, I really could use a massage. I've been craving one for years, but you know what? Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street. Billionaires, millionaires of the North American Collectif finance the firefighters, a massage therapy session, the nurses, and you know those public workers who change the aqueducts to the sewers and who pick up the garbage, the recycling. And I got a third service in my neighborhood, the compost, so always gotta include them in my marching steps. Always march for them, for the workers. And you know, I hope somebody also marches sometimes for my fellow Aspies, because I gotta include them, because it's not easy. It has been a road of tough, painful, excruciating journey. My acceptance of my difference, and I always have to build bridges with you, the 99.56% of the majority of the population who are neurotypicals, versus myself as an Aspie. And it's not an antagonistic. I have no resentment. I just learn who I am, my difference, complementary to the neurotypicals. So my difference, counterpoise, building bridges with you, the majority, or the 99.56%, is always a must. Whether we build, this is red, my favorite color, is nice. Whether we build small bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, and majestic, mega, super big bridges. Whatever the dimensions of the bridges, we have to build them. We have to build them together. We have to build them together. Because my difference, I have Asperger's, and I've been told, diagnosed for many years. Several individuals, several citizens, even online. And finally, about 3.5 years ago during COVID, I accepted it. I said, yeah, I have Asperger's, makes sense. The struggles that Aspies encounter, which are three main ones. Three main struggles of Asperger's, people with Asperger's, who keep in mind that my minority, my community, is less than 1 percentile, less than half of a percent. It's 0.44%, 0.44%, 0.44%. And so we are a tiny community. We are a tiny community. And of course, this tiny community of Aspies, I'm gonna turn around here. I'm gonna go zigzag like that, because usually we take that route, but I guess sometimes it's good to do a little zigzag, like snake, change it up a little bit. And so my tiny community, again, we are 0.44%, not even 1 percentile. We have to build these bridges, of course, between us, to work together, to cooperate together, to coexist together, and to cooperate for the individual's sovereignty and liberty, and life in pursuit of happiness. And to be honest, I'm joyous, happy, content, and just I was a bit moody earlier, but you know, sometimes we don't know the subconscious elements of why we feel. Sometimes we just got to take action to remedy. And here's nice garden, and that's what I'm doing. I work out, train, exercise. I always feel so good, and it's a habit, which new habits I guess I started post 2017, and these new habits during COVID. And you know, it's something which I encourage people to adopt. And I even have written documents, because I'm a philosopher, and I've written documents, and I am still calling, of course, as I've been calling for years and years for a mass financing via public-private partnership for citizens to work out, train, exercise. And I have a massive dream of a massive public-private partnership, corporate techno giant cooperation for citizens to log in marches for an hour and be credited some UEs. UEs is, of course, the universal exchange rate, which is going to be based on the value of the new dollar, which we have to incentivize and financialize fitness for the general wellness, parallel with tourism as well. So that is something which we have to be doing. For example, march for an hour and do some data marching and get some credits of UEs, you know, some monetary compensation for it. Of course, enables citizens' overall fitness and to espouse solidarity, you know, as well, and you know, that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, and we gotta get drilling, you know, because it's something which we have to cooperate on all levels of the intersection of our uniqueness as Aspies, which we are neurodivergent, and we're always gonna be, I guess, neurodivergent, because there's no medication, you know. Asperger's cannot be treated, so you cannot treat Asperger's, you know. Asperger's cannot be treated. There's no medication. There's no medication for Asperger's. Asperger's cannot be medicated away. Asperger's is a lifetime condition, and even the causes are, of course, inconsequential, because there's not 100% concordiate. There's not 100% conclusive to whether it's hereditary, biologically, hereditary by genetics, I mean, or if it's environmental. So it could be a combination of both. So it's the cause is not specific. It's not. We don't have a real answer to the cause of Asperger's, also known as HFA, autism, because it's been merged, fused with autism spectrum. I use both HFA, high functioning autism, and Asperger's. So I merge both. I use both Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism. So I don't shy away from utilizing both terminologies to relate to my condition, which again is my friend a disorder. And yes, in certain things we can seem disorderly when we're not involved in those special interests. When we are, then we're super focused, super dedicated, super concentrated. When you see hours and hours and hours of me marching and analyzing and studying and revising and doing theoretical geopolitics, and of course developing strategy. My strategies are for the North American Collective. For the North American Collective. For the North American Collective. And that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get drilling, man. Gotta wait on that. Turn our heads left or right, and that's how we got, like that, man. That's how we got. That's what it is, my youth, man. That's what it is, you know. See the youth happy, that brings me happiness, because the youth are innocent, and that's what it's got to get going for the empire, man, of the youth. Salute. So Asperger's, again, the causes are not conclusive. So we don't know exactly what it is. And I got to mention before I go into another topic that ABC, the American Broadcasting News and other entertainment broadcasting corporation, has made a documentary, supposedly. Now this I have to revise again. Turn your heads left or right before you cross the street. Supposedly Asperger's is a evolutionary process, evolutionary step. So it's a step towards an evolution. So meaning that Asperger's, it's a step, an evolutionary process, meaning that towards an evolutionary process, that it's a condition or a characteristics or an event in our human evolutionary process. Now I don't know about that. Supposedly there's key elements which indicate it so to be. I have to look at it again maybe this weekend, and then I could make another conclusion about it, because it's inconclusive for me, just like it's inconclusive what causes Asperger's. I just know I have it, and I have to manage my characteristics and not symptoms again. And please do not call Asperger's a sickness or an illness. Don't make that mistake to make a sickness or an illness, you know, to make it and say that it's a sickness or an illness, you know, that it's a mental illness or a sickness, you know, and that's what it is with that, and that's how you're gonna get to it, man. That's how we're gonna get drilling, and that's how we gotta get on that go for that. So we're gonna get drilling for the sun, and the sun shining, and you see those clouds? It look like thunder clouds there, and that's what we have, you know. See those black ones, black. That gray thunder clouds. They kind of look. Gotta turn left and right here. Oh, that's a nice rainbow star, part of the LGBTQ community. So I always appreciate a little bit, but a dragon nonetheless, rainbow dragon. Priestess Hannah, see? What do you say? By the time I get to the mountain, it was supposed to rain thunder only tomorrow, but that looks like a stormy cloud. That one, maybe, I don't know. No, maybe it is, you know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Back to Asperger's. So it's inconclusive what causes it. It's not very common, and a lot of people don't even know what it is, or the first time I mention it, they say I never heard of it, to be honest, and I try to resume it in like 4 phrases, which has to start with, it's not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness, and then we can move forward what it is and what it's not, which is not a mental illness. It's not an illness. It's not a disease. It cannot be cured. It cannot be treated. It's just managing the characteristics and the symptoms. So the symptoms, I don't use the word symptoms myself. I use characteristics. But a lot of people in the manuals and the script use the word symptoms. But symptoms, again, is just for an illness or a malady. I only use characteristics. So the Asperger's characteristics can be weird, awkward, bizarre, strange, such as repeating 2-3 times the same sentence. It could also be echolalia. So somebody might say exactly verbatim per verbatim what somebody else said. So if somebody says a phrase, or kind of like a phrase, and ask me might repeat the same phrase exactly word for word, verbatim for verbatim, but that's kind of like a characteristics which is automatic, right? It's not, the brain is just different because it has these mutations, and the Asperger brain has mutations. It's not outwardly visible on the exterior brain. It's not bulging, popping out. It's internal. Think about it like 4 little microchips. You know, they're tiny, the microchips, right? And you have the nanoscale. We're speaking about the micro nanoscale here, mutations. Nano and micro scale mutations. So the microscale mutations, you know, that's what we're referring about, the nano and the microscopic level. We're not referring in the big scale, the micro and the nano scale. So these mutations, that's where they occur. And that kind of accounts for the characteristics which the brain processes certain information, and we see the world differently. But this difference in how we see the world is not necessarily, it's not as evil or negative. This difference is just different in the terms that we process information and how we interact with the fellow human beings, you know, with the fellow human beings. So that our interactions can seem a bit awkward, weird, and bizarre, but now when it comes to our special interests, which if we start a conversation around our special interests, we might not even be able to stop or process the fact that a person is not interested in that, right? And we might be direct and straightforward in certain things that might offend, and we're not aware that we're offending if we're not told. We have to retreat. We have to retreat and say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm able to understand that I made a mistake, I didn't mean to. In that sense, it's just this directness, this overt directness can be, of course, a very, you know, from the social perspective, is those interactions which we don't fully compute and understand. The social dynamics, the social interactions, which of course can be awkward. I wouldn't know, of course, if somebody's maybe physically attracted to me. And if you are, man or woman, black or white, you know, play that 24/7 friends with benefits, but you have to be of age. You have to be of age, because I realize the ethics and the morality that you have to be, at least for me, is going to be like when you try to go to a club, you try to get some booze, some liquor, some cigarettes, where you try, of course, to go to get cannabis is legal here in Canada since 2019. So the legalization of cannabis, which I am for, I don't object it, I don't smoke myself, but very rarely I bought for the first time in 3.5 years, I believe, last in June, end of June, first week of summer, was it when I bought, or last week of spring? Either last week of spring or first week of summer, because I said I'm gonna maybe smoke a bit legal during the summertime, you know, just because I'm working out, and I guess because I'm taking baths, and you know, I read something down for the muscles sometimes to smoke irregularly, like some cannabis. It does good for my soreness, and you know, I wish I could afford a massage therapy session again, but I'm broke, financially stressed, but volunteers, you know, because, so I don't want to waste anybody's time, you know, what to expect, and it's friends with benefits only. You want to make some massaging, do some good loving, do some that XXX, you know, just consent and hygiene, and I like that BDSM switch myself personally. And I gotta mention again, because I got another email. This one I checked, the email source was from Russia. Email source was from Russia. Email source from Russia. Email source was from Russia. Email source was from Russia. Right? And so this problematic, the email source was from Russia, has made me so that it was a sexual blackmail email. I mean, I don't know, but in theory it's possible. All telecommunications, whether sending texts, the Stingray capabilities, and interphone telecommunications interceptions, and by phone, by, of course, the internet can be intercepted between point and A and B, so any communication between 2 points can be intercepted by a third party with the technological gadgetry that exists. There's the capabilities of espionage even in a parallel life. I designed those capabilities myself. In a parallel life, I have Asperger's. I designed supercomputers, super microchips, super ICBM rockets, and super satellites, and supercomputers. And with the satellites that I designed with a team, you can zoom in and you can check even in somebody's fridge. But there's a checkup system that, if that's used, for example, to check in somebody's fridge from above the sky, in that massive constellation that I built in that parallel timeline, where I also have Asperger's, but my special interest in that parallel timeline are not geopolitics and rock and roll and sports and fitness, as they are in this life and have been for many years. And with intensity, super focus, and concentration and dedication, I am involved in those three the majority of my time for many years, in a routine, or like ritual, like routine type of manner. I've spent my time, and so in that parallel life, I do everything to do. I work in science, technology, and I design satellites which enable not just me, but other people to be able to spy with the satellites from above. Beautiful flowers here, and to even peers to look inside the homes and inside the buildings, to look, for example, in the fridge, somebody's fridge from above. But of course, it's flagged when it's used. When somebody uses it, it has to be ethics and morality involved, you know, for security purposes, and there has to be some security so that it doesn't. Beautiful flowers there. Yeah, for security purposes, I think we're gonna go this way, like that. Yeah, let's go through here on the alleyway. So that parallel timeline, parallel universe aside, where I also have Asperger's, but there my special interests are science, technology, computers, satellites, everything to do with mathematics and physics. And in this life, there's a science to geopolitical analysis and geopolitical studies, because it's the political science also, and it involves history, political science, geography. So geopolitics is a whole scientific universe. In many ways, you have to know a little bit about science, or at least scientific achievements, because scientific achievements, now you come in my topic, you know, Aspies, we have special interest, also known as obsessive interest, but it renders no justice for me to utilize the word obsessive, because obsessive and obsession is for somebody who's a neurotypical, who that obsession is manifesting in certain ways, where for us it's a natural thing. And I'm not fully aware that sometimes I spend 4, 5, 6 hours intensity eating 2, 3 cup of coffees, and all I do is watch news and relate foreign governments and their declaration vis-a-vis a geopolitical event, vis-a-vis another geopolitical event, vis-a-vis, for example, the recent letters sent by Trump to many leaders of the world about the tariffs, such as, of course, the tariffs rates, which are going to be increased. Now they were supposed to be on the 9th today, but supposedly there's a parallel delay delay, and it's going to be probably in the coming weeks or by the August 1st. So that is something which we have to be doing like that, and that's how we have to be doing on the go. So that geopolitical sphere, of course, can include scientific achievements, because during the Cold War there was the scientific achievements known, of course, as the space race, which some say has restarted, and of course they're launched by the USSR then, for example, of Sputnik. The first satellite was launched by, beautiful color, makes me think of some ice cream, delicious ice cream, by Sputnik. That was really nice there, the Vespa. So in terms of geopolitics, yes, high scientific achievements can be there's a source of pride and even antagonistic relations between superpowers or powers, and now they're trying to move it towards a multipolar world, and of course that's what the BRICS nations have been declaring to be doing, especially the Sino-Russia post the 21st century Sino-Russia alliance, post-Russian invasion of Ukraine alliance. And of course I can discuss the ideologies, philosophies, because I do that geopolitical theoretical science and analysis, and geopolitical revision of daily events in the past 24 hours, what's happening today, what's possibly going to happen in the future, short, medium, long term. And of course, as an ASPE geopolitical theoretical analyst and strategist, I take great pride in my geopolitical work. As an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and strategist, I have to state, before I do continue, that I predicted what's happening now. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration on the horizon. International conflagration on the horizon. In 2019, October, November, I predicted that there's going to be a World War III coming. And that's what I predicted. In 2019, that was my prediction. That there's going to be in the coming years, there's going to be an international conflagration. I predicted it back in 2019. I have proof of work. So the current situation, without being overly too detailed about it, I predicted back in 2019. And again, I have proof. I have proof because I have proof for it. So that is the consequential proof which I have in regards to my statement, which I have the proof because I have the video on YouTube still. I have my another channel because I'm in the process of changing my name officially. I changed my name, but still to pay, and monetary wise I wasn't able to change it because of monetary issues and financial issues. But it's Adrian Hana Dragon turned that into an O, and of course Adrian Hana Dragon now. And here's nice, I gotta give a shout out to whoever built this public park here. Somebody built it for the dogs, and yeah, you can come with the dogs there, and you can have a nice place to run around your dogs. It's really nice, it's really extensive, it has a lot of different gadgets. So I gotta promote this NDG park here, dog park. I think it's a good job. You can see for yourself, and it's very large, very big. And see, you can just come. It has rocks where you can sit, you have benches where you can sit, and you have many things which the dogs can interact with and play with. They can interact and play with. You saw? So that's how we're gonna go. Here we're gonna hydrate again. Usually I wait about 10-20 seconds, And I gotta give a shout out to the public workers. Imagine all the work underneath to build the pipes. It's always something which I meditate, how the pipes were built, how they were constructed. I don't know much about public works, but somebody built this, and if now we'll be drinking from the river, If we're not having this, we'll be up filtering water from the river. I say that as a joke, We'll be filtering water from the river. Or the river running water is more safer than lakes. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. That was some good hydration. Oh yeah, that's what is a good hydration with it, and that's how we're gonna get on that hydration. We gotta get it on that hydration across the nations. So imagine everything that was built underground. Hey, it's quite extensive.
I thought you were aiming at me.
I'm doing a vlog.
A vlog?
Yeah,
About what?
I'm going to the mountain.
The mountain?
Yeah.
I'm going to the mountain to get fat.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to the mountain.
Which mountain?
Mount Royal.
From here?
Yeah. Oh, hey, hi.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, I like to do it often.
Alright, that's so chill, man.
Oh, you don't mind the camera? It's on you?
No, I thought it was on me or something, but no, you seem chill.
Yeah, I'm just doing a vlog. I didn't mean to. If you
No, it's cool.
got a,
Hey,
it wasn't. I was just rock and rolling and discussing the public works actually.
I'll tell you a little story while we're walking together.
Yeah, I'm going to the right side.
You know how they say if you find a four-leaf clover, you're gonna be lucky soon.
A clover.
A
Four-leaf clover.
You know, they say you're gonna get lucky soon, but the truth is, you're already lucky to have found it.
Watch the car.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Cool. You like the Raptors?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Not that I ever watched them, I just like the logo.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a,
Yeah. I see the
I'm a
logo.
bit of a hypocrite. I like the
We all are, I guess. Underneath, sometimes subconsciously, you know.
Well, it's because there's something about the symbol of it, you know. And, you know, Jurassic Park is out, and
I like the red. I like the red. I like more dancing as a sport, to be honest.
I'm gonna do some skateboarding. So,
Nice.
all right.
I have Asperger's, so certain things are more difficult for me socially. You know what Asperger's is?
Yeah.
Okay, you're aware? Yeah.
I got it too.
Yeah, so that's
It's
why.
like having a very, very, very good computer with a very, very, very shitty battery.
Yeah, and our software tends to be prone to certain subjects, and beyond those subjects we lack. Or at least personally myself, you know, I'm not that good in certain things. I'm not good at. I'm good at geopolitics and rock and roll.
I think it's where we part ways and went that way. It was nice talking.
So that's what it is, you know, fellow there, I guess, Aspie, and that's what it is with that, and we gotta get it for the go, and I'm gonna sing a little song for my fellow neurodivergents. We're neurodivergents, we're not bad or evil, we just gotta rock and roll. For the left and for the right and for the go, and for the left and for the right, and for the outer side, we gotta get it as we go, we're gonna get it as you go. You know how we get that rock and roll. For the road, and for the truckers and the bakers and the butchers and the nurses and the firefighters, and the plumbers, electricians and the bakers and the doctors. Firefighters, you know that we gotta love him for the left and for the right and for the sea. So you know, up into B. It's a long walk, but not for me, because regularly, you know. That's what I've been doing for years. I have this routines, you know. I forgot to ask my fellow Aspie what's his routines like. You know, I have these routines, and we just not aware. You know, it's not even for us. It's not even an obsession. It's just how we go, and that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So it's just not an obsession. You know, it's just a special interest which manifests themselves by our preoccupation with intensity, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. And I know that I'm different, and my difference is always to be integrated in the things which we have and the things which we do, and you know, that's the beautiful sky there as we go. Look at that. Sometimes you just gotta look above, you know, to realize how small we are, and myself a piece of dust, nobody. That's how we gotta get doing with the drill, and that's how we gotta get doing on that. And beautiful sky, see? And that's just how things are today. And see how my brain now switches? Now that I cross this point event in my life, now makes that my Asperger's, being an Aspie, makes me, of course, that I meditate, and of course I integrate everything that's happening now across the North American Collective in terms of all the highways which are going east, west, north, south. All the highways which are going east, west, north, south, and all of them, there are some that are transporting our goods, the truckers, the goods, the bacon, the cheese, the ham, all the lettuce, not in let us dance, L-E-T, USDANCE, but in of course the LETT lettuce, LETTUC, the lettuce of course, which of course is edible, and I eat it myself. I ate some of it this morning in my salad, pre-workout salad. But of course they're transporting the milk, the butter, the cheese, the sausages, and of course all across the North American collective. They're of course going on the east and on the west. And roundabout is going actually south, so that might be south of the border or north, or north, so that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and it's something which we gotta salute the firefighters. Gotta love someone else firefighters to get it on the go, and that's how we got, gotta give some loving, somebody make some good loving for them. And my fellow aspirator who I met and says it's a long walk. Well, kind of do it every day, my buddy. It's a march, not a walk. Marching always for the firefighters, the plumbers, electricians, the train conductors there, Sometimes which you have to be doing with that, and sometimes which you have to be intermittent about what we do as aspirants. We have these routines, and these routines, and preoccupy our whole daily activities in a manner that is commensurate to us having these special interests, whereas we are super intense, super concentrated, super dedicated, super in. So when we are involved in those things which we do, we're of course super dedicated, super concentrated, super in them, and that's what I do, and I've been doing for years and years and years. Geopolitics, sports and fitness, and rock and roll, and that's that vlog, and that's how we got, that's how we got on that rock and roll, man, and that's what I do. And sometimes, we offend, and not because we mean to. I got 4 seconds, not enough to cross. Anyways, so that's Asperger's. We have special interests, we have special characteristics which make us seem odd, weird, and more odd, just the odd behaviors. The characteristics can manifest. I'm an individual aspie, so my aspiness versus somebody's aspiness, like my fellow aspie, is also an individual aspie, right? An individual aspie. It's very rare. It's very rare. I still haven't met that many aspies, but it's very rare characteristics. But that's what we have to be doing with that. That's what we have to be doing with the drill. And that's what we gotta get doing on the go, man. Yeah. That's what we got on the left and on the right, and we gotta turn our heads, see, across the streets, and that's what we got, and that's what we do, and that's what we gotta get on that loving side of things, and that's what we got, and I mean, nobody has to pretend or feign that you like me, just I'm free, I'm liberty, and it's financially stressed, and I'm going to where I go, my second home, my mistress, my mountain. You speak your mind, say what you will, but I don't like violence, I don't like violence, but I am hyper vigilant because I was attacked by surprise, and I fell, hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and went to the Jewish General Hospital, I like this. This is super nice. Super nice. I love it. Me and my anonymous friend could split 50-50 on that, and that's what you gotta do, man. I wish I could get my anonymous friend, who wasn't my friend because of the money, the house here, in the left, right, there, and that's how we do. So the consequential, one of my events in my life, because I was depressed, I was suicidal, and I'm gonna speak about 3 main problems. Gotta make sure, cross the street. That's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, man, Cross the street prudently. Turn your heads left or right. Turn your heads, and that's what we got, and so we gotta get on that rock and roll, man. So that is basically what we do. We have routines, but the three main problems of Asperger's, of Aspies, and my individual, this is a general overall problems, are of course something which we have to be doing, and something which we have to be doing on the go with that, and sometimes which we have to be on the prudent side of things, and you gotta get on the left, right, Z, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know, to get on the left and on the right, and for the butchers, for the truckers, and for the nurses, firefighters, plumbers, and electricians, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and that's what we gotta get rock and rolling for this beautiful color here, you know. That's what we gotta get drilling, you know. So we gotta get on the left and on the right and in the left and in the middle and all those on the side, man. So three main problems Aspie community faces: the lack of friends, and friends with benefits only from now on. Lack of friends. Friends with benefits only from now on. You know? Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance. The other problem is very high depression and suicidal rates. Depression and suicidal rates are 9 times higher than the majority of the population. Than the majority of the population. The majority of the population. 9 times, right? So for one neurotypical, which you constitute the majority of the population, think about the statistics of it. 9 times higher depression and suicidal rates. 9 times. The problem, of course, is the very also parallel to this problem, and I live being depressed and suicidal. What got me out of being depressed and suicidal was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That's when I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That's when I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. You know? When I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. C'est moi, hein? Yeah. So that's another nice one. So crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. I love that house there. I could split 50-50. 50-50 with my anonymous friend. 50-50. 50-50 with my anonymous friend. 50-50 with my anonymous friend. Gotta get the suns piercing the clouds, you know. Makes me think of Papa Crowley's prophecies. Papa Crowley's prophecies. Papa Crowley's prophecies. Papa Crowley's prophecies. And now what we got, that's how I gotta get drilling with that. And that's how I gotta get a drill on the left and on the right and in the go, you know. That's how we're gonna get that drill. LOV, make love to the firefighter, somebody. Make them some of that good loving. And that's how we got, you know. So we gotta get down that drill, you know. Gotta get it on the love side of things, you know. Yeah, nice. This is nice. Architecturally, I like it. So the condiments, the consequential parallel problem, a triple problem, parallel, I said, to the lack of friendships, which I don't mind. I had a friend which gotta thank again for giving me that book. Give me 2 books, Asperger's and autism related, and 1 book specifically only dedicated to Asperger's, which is known as Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Here's a... Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, No, I'm not in a hurry. It's just because I wanted to say sorry before I crossed, and I couldn't cross on the other side because the cars were passing.
And you're walking fast and reading your phone at the same time.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a vlog.
You're doing a vlog?
Yeah, so be well. Have a nice day.
You too, yeah.
Bye-bye. Those are nice. Look at those. Those are nice. Those are nice. Those are nice. You know? Turn your heads left and right. Left and right. Across the street. Here it is. And and that's where we are. Here. You know? Here we are. That's just, isn't it? Eh? Well. 25. That's a good. Bounce. Here's a. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to rule. Nice, eh? We're not here to make friends. We're here to rule. We're not here to be with friends. We're here to rule. It's the Carly. Yeah, I guess so, eh? That's a nice color, look at that. That's a nice color, eh? Yeah. Huh. We're not here. We're not here. Friends. There you go. What is that? An Aspie would know everything about that car. An Aspie, if that's a special interest for an Aspie would know everything about that car. Everything about that car. So an Aspie would know everything about that car. If an Aspie special interest is cars, an Aspie would know everything about the car, you know. Look at that. See, those are the buildings, which they are. In the south. So sometimes we're there, we're pointing the camera here. The sun shining again, piercing the black clouds. Here. There we go. So it's not that long of a march for me, you know. But I guess because you do it regularly. If you do it regularly, that's different, you know. It's different than when you do it consequentially, when you do it only once in a while. So the three main problems. Perhaps there's lack of friends. No friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance from now on. Thank you to my anonymous friend for a great book, which I recommend for fellow Aspies and the 99.56 neurotypical population also. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome. Appreciating it. Because I learned invaluable information and how my difference makes me open for some vulnerabilities. No. Because that's what it is, and here it is. When we come here, you check a little bit of that good dimension of going up and down. See? You see that? That's where we usually are. Sometimes we point the camera on the side from there, and sometimes we point it up on that, which to show here, but that's miles and kilometers away, you know? That's what we're gonna drink. Usually wait about 10 seconds, 15, clear the pipes. I always wonder how they did it to build up, you know, all the pipes underneath, you know. Imagine all that work to get it up here. Must have been quite laborious. Probably how they did it in the 19th century, 20th century. Oh yeah, that's what I needed. Thank you to whoever built that there. I know it requires some brains and some muscle to build that fountain. This, whoever were you who did that building of that construction there, that's of course something which we have to be aware of consequentially as we have, and that's why we gotta get on that left, right, and center, and we gotta get it on the left and on the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, truckers, firefighters, and all those of course who are involved in the production and the distribution of food, and all those firefighters with it. Three main things that face our neurodivergent population. The main problematic things are lack of friends, which I don't mind really. I have a few friends online, and from now on my old friend wasn't my friend because of the money, but friends with benefits only. 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 Friends with benefits only, you know. Friends with benefits only. Please don't want to waste nobody's time. You gotta be of age though, eh? It's like when you buy liquor, booze, cigarettes. I don't smoke myself, but that's what it is. And problematic also is the high depression and suicidal rate. What got me out of depression, because I was depressed and suicidal for a few years, is crossing Canada coast to coast. After I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017 in August, gonna celebrate 8 years in September 2017. August I went in BC, British Columbia, and of course by bus it took a hell of a load, and 3.5 days by bus. That's when I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and solidarity with my fellow North American family, my brothers and sisters in the USA, because you know I'm a mystic believer in reincarnation. Sometimes was born a man, a woman a man, and I was born 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man in the United States Armed Forces. I did serve twice at 2 different wars, 156 years apart. I was born a woman here in between 1688 and the 1700s, right Quebecois, but that wasn't the Quebecois of today's. That was 300 years ago. And many past lives, many reincarnations, and gotta get that loving and gotta get that for today. And the other problem we face as Aspies are, of course, the main problem is, of course, the also unemployment, which is very, very high. 80%. That's 0.8. That's 80% is 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. 80%. 80%. 80%. 8 out of 10. 80 out of 100. 80% is unacceptable, brothers and sisters. That's why we fellow Aspies face high unemployment. I had many jobs in the past during COVID and different employments, and I had an employment was 4 months. I guess that was the longest. Beautiful, beautiful garden there. Yeah, I just love that garden. That's so nice with the pink flowers there. Yeah, good job. And those beautiful flowers there, you know, there's something which we have and something which we do and something which we gotta be mindful of, you know. We got those XYZ and that's what we got, you know. It's something which we gotta do as a part of who we are integrally. So the unemployment rates are way unacceptable. 80%. And of course, high depression rates and suicidal rates. And I was depressed. I was suicidal. Gotta give a shout out to the workers here. See, it's got a lot of rust. Even looks like bricks. See, it looks like old bricks. Oh my goodness, is that so? From the 19th century or 18th century? Makes me think of an ancient life, in past life, when I built aqueducts in ancient Rome. Part of the Roman legion was a priestess in ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, ancient Sumeria. See, it looks like bricks. So we got a lot of work to do. Wow, that must be old. Bricks on it. I don't know much about public aqueduct building, but I think we innovated quite a lot since then. I wonder what century, about 20th century or 19th, but what era, you know? Hard to tell. All the work that's underneath, eh? Gotta admire that. So it's things we take for granted sometimes, unless there's a problem, you know. Then we kind of start meditating upon I gotta cross the street, because those are so beautiful and gorgeous there. This house, if it's for sale, I don't have money to buy, but let's go Oprah, Beyonce, and Granddaddy Trump, who I would have not voted, but I'm challenging Donald Trump for a boxing match. Maybe from the proceedings I'll buy this house or another house. And I love this garden, so luscious, so beautiful garden. I really love your garden. I love the spheres. You're welcome. Bye bye. What are they called? What's the name of the flower?
The pink one?
Yeah.
Hydrangea.
Oh, nice. And you know it in French?
Hydrangea.
Okay. It's very nice. Have a nice day. That's why I crossed to Chicago. It's just so nice. And the fellow auntie, my auntie there passed, and you know what it was, you know, but because I just love those beautiful flowers. Like these ones are also nice, you know. These ones are also nice, you know. These ones are also nice, you know. That's what I love about going on these marches. Sometimes I just get to see so much gardens and so much architecture, and it just stimulates my whole geopolitical theorizing and analysis. You know, I guess there's a geopolitics of gardenings, and geopolitics includes all that we have as a civilizational complex, as Quebec, Canada, United States. So back to Asperger's. The other problem is very high unemployment rates, and I had many jobs. Problem is maintenance, maintaining them long term. Sometimes there's a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, you know. A few days, a few weeks, a few months. That's what it is consequentially. So that is just the consequential elements. Three main things: lack of many friends, maintaining long-term friendships, maintaining long-term employment. The unemployment rate is really unacceptable in the 21st century for Quebec, Canada, United States. 80%. Look at that beautiful sky. See, it still goes up to the mountain, and this goes down, down, down. See, sometimes we're miles, kilometers over there, pointing here towards the mountain. You're in Argyle, Montrose, and that name of is Argyle. See, Argyle Street. And of course, that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get on the consequential things of that, and that's what it is, and that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get drilling on that, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. So the problem is the unemployment rate is way too high, 80%, you know. That's what it is. That's what it is. So 80%. 80%. 80. 4 out of 5. 8 out of 10. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. So that's just what many aspies encounter and we deal with on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, decade by decade basis. That's just what we live with. There's a stop sign there, and this is a little bit of a dangerous corner area, you know. Even because there's a stop, but it's very wide and it goes down. So if you got the cyclist, I always turn 3 times, left, right, left, right. So what got me out of being depressed and suicidal. That's just what it is, you know. So it's something which we have, you know, consequently. Yeah. So we got, see, there it goes down, there it goes up, and there it goes down, you know. So that's what we got, and that's what I like to see, some hugging. So I like to see some hugging, man. The youth hugging, that gives me hope, you know. I don't mean to stare too much, but you know, I'm happy to see that in the public. People working out, people hugging and kissing, holding hands, you know. Making out well, you know, to a certain extent, you gotta be aware if there's children and youth, but that's what brings me some joy, you know. For me, it's friends with benefits only, you know. You're black, white, man, woman, you know. Play that rainbow. And that's how I roll, rock and roll. Problem is, unemployment is very high, and I had many employment jobs and blah blah, but now I'm good at 3 main things. Dancing is my favorite sport. Rock and roll and geopolitics. Those are my special interests, also known as obsessive, and for years and years and years I've been working independently in those areas. So anybody mostly want to cooperate, participate, commission, and work and finance and sponsor and donate mainly in those 3 activities, then that's what we, you know. You look at a snake. See, it looks like a snake coil with a head there. doesn't it? It's like a big snake is just inside there. To me, at least, that's maybe apparent how it's just like a snake, big anaconda, whatever snake is, and just that's what it looks like to me. Geopolitically, back to 2019, I have predicted what's happening now. Yes, you heard that correct. I predicted that there's gonna be an international conflagration on the horizon in the future. So that was in October, November 2019. October, November 2019. So before COVID, and I gotta say that my memory kind of blacks out before I remember the past 7, 8, 9, 10. Here's then it goes a bit blurry, black out, and before 2014, spring 2014, I have difficulties. My memory goes rah 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 rah. RA, retrograde amnesia. I have trouble remembering life, so I don't know if I did lots of drugs. Was I an alcoholic junkie? Was I doing alcohols because of my Asperger's struggles? Was I doing drugs? I really don't know a lot, because sometimes the memory comes back. I remember I used to live in a moldy, here on the island of Montreal, Hakalan, moldy underground place. Moldy, very moldy. A small prison type of cell on the ground underneath, and like a small prison type of cell with lots of mold, lots of black mold and like greenish, whitish, reddish mold. And I moved supposedly, I thought it was 2016, 9 years ago this July. It's actually 10 years this July. 10 years this July. I wish I could get my anonymous friend right a house right here at this corner. Melrose and Ramsey, but preferably by the river. By the river, preferably. Here I gotta turn left and right because sometimes the brakes malfunction also, so you never know. Got those brakes malfunctioning, and you got somebody pressing the accelerator instead of the brake, and you got a potential dangerous situation. So I'm in the public. I have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which I don't have, because that's the responsibility in the public sphere, In the public sphere. Sorry guys. Thank you. Because I have a backpack, so gotta say that to pass the street, So I don't want to go on the side. Yeah. That's what it is, man. So in the public, we have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which we don't usually have. Here it is gonna be cut. So, in the public, there's other responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which, under the normal circumstances of life, I don't have. So now that I'm outside, I have these added responsibilities, duties, and obligations. consequently, it's something which I have to be mindful of. That's how you have to be. Actually, my anonymous friend would deserve a house here, but if not, maybe been in St. Anne de Bellevue by the river. By the river. By the river. By the river rest. So, keep that in mind. Consequently, to be prudent in the public sphere, think about the fellow other citizens, because my liberty, my work, what I'm doing now, this vlog, and consequently another fellow citizens, individual liberty, individual imperial liberty and sovereignty, with the coming empire to be secured to the fullest and maximizing the public private partnerships. So finalizing on Asperger's and going deep into geopolitics and my DRT theory is the problems which we encounter. High unemployment. 80%, even today in 2025, is unacceptable. There's been a lot of work done on what is Asperger's, what is not. There's no treatment. If an Aspie is suicidal depressed, then there is a medicine, because it's depression and suicidal caused mainly by the isolation, the self-harm, the bullying, the misunderstandings that Aspies like myself face. So I remember moving from a moldy place, supposedly it was 2010, I thought it was 2016, but it could be 2015 July. So it's been 10 years, I guess, since I moved. I was living here in the island, a few kilometers that way, Côte des Neiges, in Citoyen, Côte des Neiges, Montreal. And when I lived there, I was maybe in 2014 or somewhere. I was attacked by surprise. I gotta go retrieve the archives of the Jewish General Hospital. Gotta go retrieve the archives. I was attacked by surprise and hit my head on the concrete, was bloodied up. I had a dislocated right shoulder, and the doctors at the Jewish General Hospital cracked it back, crack, placed it back, and I was put on some meds, and I was like in a coma for a few days. So I had like a Cillian pirate type of episode, I was kind of gone for a few days in a coma on those meds, and my right arm and dislocated right shoulder was cracked back, and I have trouble remembering my life prior, prior to me moving from there. I have a high school diploma. I have documents, letters of recommendation and whatever have you, the records of a recommendation, and those are the things which, of course, consequently we have to be prudent about. So those prudent in a manner that coupled with our retrograde amnesia, it's consequential that doesn't really matter. All the scars, all the trauma, like I said, usually amnesia can come back. Either head trauma causes it, or lots of alcoholism. When you drink too much alcohol for a long period of time, even for a year, 2 years, you can lose memory from before your life, or trauma. So it's possible that you lose memory, memory loss, retrograde amnesia, RA. But it's not the memory loss. It doesn't affect linguistic capabilities. Doesn't affect mathematical skills. Doesn't affect those areas. Just personal memory of my personal life, like high school and stuff like that. High school, youth, early youth is just like access denied, like inaccessible. As I joke, I say maybe I'm a cybernetic organism. How would I know? I wouldn't even know if I would be one, eh? I guess I wouldn't have to get Turing test or whatever, but I wouldn't really know if I would be one, and you wouldn't either. If you're a cyborg, Of course, this is all science fiction theorizing and AI merging with human flesh and human biological right? But it's of course been theorized in science fiction books for years and years and years. And some say we have reached actually the capability of developing cyborgs back in the 60s and 70s, and even in the late 30s and 40s. There were some developments of that technology, which we don't know, but most likely, and I'm going a little bit Arthur C. Clarke here, but I'm going a little bit Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke is one of my favorite authors, so you gotta. Arthur C. Clarke is the name of a science fiction writer, which I really enjoy, and he outlined of actually what's known today as satellites and even part of the internet, which consequently he espoused a little bit of the knowledge with it. So those are the things which are part of daily life. Daily life. Look at that. Little flowers, man. That's so we got. These are flowers. They are beautiful. Beautiful flowers there. See? Look at that. So that is just the Asperger's things which we have as Aspies, and that's something which I gotta live with. Sometimes it comes back, but it doesn't really make a difference. What's most important for me really is the work that I have been doing for the past 7 years. Especially since I got out of my depression. Some work and collaboration on national security issues is, of course, even predates that era from 2015-16, and I had written journals. I lived in that moldy place, struggles and sufferings and whatever have you. And that's it. That's all on that chapter, I guess. I had COVID and I also died. I died during COVID. That says Prince Edward Island, birthplace of Confederation. I always check the mottos. Most of our mottos are in Latin, eh? Even the motto of the Canadian Security Establishment, not to be confused with CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, is Latin. So it's to be faithful about the information, and I guess this is what we're gonna be dedicating it today. First, Imperial, one for Texas, and for the CSE, Canadian Security Establishment, which we're gonna merge and fuse with, as we're gonna fuse Canada and United States in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. Let's do it. September 11th, from the mountain, sign new perpetual Imperial Confederation Articles, perpetual Democratic Imperial Republican Imperial Democratic Principles for perpetual Imperial Union. Gonna put Canada into 13 states and get that Imperial Perpetual Union for the 21st century total dedie, the dominance and dominion, the 21st century geopolitics, coupled with a strong PPP and strong financing of healthcare. We have to mass finance healthcare, brothers and sisters. Healthcare, brothers and sisters. Geopolitics is my special interest. I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and that's what I do 24/7, selling the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, and the welders. And we're gonna enter by this side. I'm just gonna put my glasses away because now it's time to put them away. And let my now we're from the civilization, we're in the wilderness. in the wilderness here. In the wilderness. In the wilderness. On the rocks, and I missed you, missed you, missed you, missed you. My mistress, the forest on the mountain. My mistress, the forest on the mountain. And my Doctor Mountain, my second home here, Mount Royal. It's been 4 days. After 4 days not coming here, I start missing the rocks and my second home here, Mount Royal. Be careful because trees are not that healthy and there's a tendency for leaves to fall, you know, falling branches. I got the backpack, it's only about 22 pounds, but that's how we're gonna rock and roll it. So I love coming here. Please do not pollute and just watch the branches. Sometimes they fall and you can see how much good we have here and how much we gotta get doing with that. And look at these branches. Sometimes they fall and gotta be mindful of that. And that's what we have to do, you know. Our fellow citizens there, cousins. Enough of my face already. I just want to show off a little bit of that Maine. Maine. Got that Canada tatted up. Can't tell me nothing. My amnesia aside, memory loss, and surviving COVID, it was really hardcore. When I had COVID, it was like death, pestilence, and disease. And death, pestilence, I sounds like a hardcore death metal trash. Death, pestilence, and disease. Am I in this God, please? Death, pestilence, and disease. Am I in this, please? Death, pestilence, and disease, baby. Am I in this, please? I know it sounds like a hardcore death trash rock and roll metal song, but that's how I felt in between mid-February 2020 and mid-March 2020. That's how I felt. And I survived right where I live now, my new place, because I moved supposedly, I thought it was 9 years, but supposedly it's 10 years ago. So crossing Canada in 2017 made me come out of my depression and being suicidal in summer 2017, and I was overweight, really, like I was 290. So I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I lost 4 kilos 2 weeks ago, but I gained 2 in the past week. So I'm back to 90, 91-ish. And here you can see part of the Montreal Hawk Island, the beautiful skyscrapers. Thank you, construction workers. I will to build the 4. Let's build together Canada, United States on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. And if you don't know that, you will know that I've been and will challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match. I've been ever since 2018 because Granddaddy Trump made a mistake with Canada. And that's the pyramid, my favorite skyscraper. That's the pyramid skyscraper, that's my favorite. And on the Canadian-US border, you can see part of the bridge there. The beautiful clouds, part of the bridge. You can see the river. The river surrounds Hawk Island, Montreal, Snake River right there, see? The river, that's where we go sometimes. We point the camera here and we go by the river by the side. You can see it in past videos. And we roam about this city in a past life and in this life for years and years and years. So me and Donald Trump, we're going to fight on the Canadian-US border, because it's a Dragon versus Trump edition since 2018. And of course, Donald Trump made a mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, and furthermore this year 2025 in the second administration furthermore to issue more tariffs. And yes, we have our vulnerabilities, we have to admit, because 85% of our foreign exports and exports go to the US market. But now I'm going to make a statement which is reciprocal for Canada, United States. So this has to be what I'm going to say next. This has to be a yes to this following statement. Yes. It has to be a yes to this following statement. So when it comes to foreign affairs, I'm not speaking about domestic internal affairs. I'm speaking about foreign affairs. Not domestic internal affairs, but foreign affairs. Foreign affairs, our primary interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. Foreign affairs. Our main interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. That is our first and foremost interest, principal interest. There's no way around that statement. But this is reciprocal. Beautiful white flowers. So this statement is reciprocal. It's not just applicable one time. It was so in the 20th century, and it is so now in the 21st century, and it will be in the 21st century continuously in the coming decades, right? So that's reciprocal. That's reciprocal. That's a reciprocal geopolitical principle. So it's not alterable. You cannot change that. It's just like the pi symbol, and just like I cannot change the scars that I live with, the trauma, and my aspiness, being that I have Asperger's, that I'm different in the neurodivergent manner. So of course, it's something which we go, and something which we gotta be admitting on that. So that's something which we have to compute. So this is just like the pi symbol. You know, the pi symbol represents the relation between a diameter and a circumference for the area of a circle. So of course, the area of the diameter of a circle is always relation to the pi symbol. It looks like an N with two heads, double-headed N. Two faces, two heads, two faces, two heads, two faces, or two heads. So that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we go, you know. Turn left and right here. We're gonna go by that side. So this is the main road, which I recommend you stay on, because if you go in the wilderness, you're more exposed to risks like falling branches, That's all we got. Beautiful place. So consequently, something which we have to be knowledgeable about, you know. That's how we have to be knowledgeable. And the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding comes from, of course, the work, the studies, the learning, which is evolving on a constant basis. So that's what we have to be mindful of. So that statement is a yes. You cannot say no, and you cannot say maybe to it. I'm going to repeat it. Our main interest when it comes to foreign affairs, domestic affairs, and this is for Canada, United States, it's reciprocal. It applies to us, Canada, United States, and vice versa, reciprocal. So there's no, there's no maybe. Our main, primary, first, most important interest when it comes to foreign affairs, not domestic, diplomacy, foreign affairs, etc., 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 is to have the best, most cordial economic, financial, commercial, military, defense relations with each other. There's just no way out of that. That's just like the pi symbol, which has two heads or two faces. And that is a constant. That doesn't change. That's not alterable. It was not in the 20th century, at least, in the second half of the 20th century, because, of course, the British Empire, of course, ruled until, of course, the Second World War. They still had an imperial empire, and they still had colonies. But of course, after he started dissolution of the British Empire with the breakup and the decolonization and Mahatma Gandhi's arrival to declare India's independence in 1947, etc., right? But until the second half of the 20th century, that was so, right? So the second half of the 20th century and in the 21st century. But now I don't agree with Carney pledging allegiance to the King of England. That gotta go. It's time for the Republic. 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 And the perpetual Imperial Union, Democratic Republican Union with the USA. So that is a statement which is unalterable. You cannot negotiate with that statement. It's just like mathematics. 2 + 2 = 4, but you can write it in black, white, and plus the black and white and the gray. You can write it in all the colors of the rainbow, right? The 2, you can write it in black. The plus, you can because you can divide it by 4, the plus. You can write it in, of course. You can write it in, of course, whatever the case may be, and whatever the other proponents might be. You can write it, of course, in whatever the black and white and rainbow, and that's what it is with the pink. You can write it in pink and red and blue and purple. You can write it in whatever the case may be, you know, the pink, the purple. That's what it is, and that's what we have to be doing. That's what it is, and that's how we gotta go, you know. So that's why we gotta go, and that's why we gotta get drilling, you know. Here's when I wanna rest at the back of the Belvedere there, turning me. So that's what we have, and that's what we do. So that is the constitution of which we are, for the appellation for the time being, to get it on the go for the left and the right and the Z. So that is something which we gotta be mindful. That's not a variable. It's like the mathematical symbol, the pi has two heads. Two heads. That's what it is. 2 heads. And that's what it is. 2 heads. And it represents, of course, a number. It's 3.1415, and then it goes ad infinitum. It's rounded up to 3.1416. So that's something which, of course, it has to be. And that's, of course, something which, of course, has to be relatable to, of course, the relation between the area, the circumference, and the diameter. So that is always the same. That doesn't change. That's not a variable. That does not fluctuate, right? That doesn't fluctuate, and that doesn't, of course. That's what it is with that. That's what it is with that. So that is just the appellation which we have to be mindful about. So basically, that is the theory. Not a theory only, but it is a reality, a geopolitical reality, real geopolitics. It's just real geopolitics. There's no way around that statement. It's actually just a fact, Concordium. So, this is just discussing mere geopolitics, right? We're not discussing other things. We're merely real geopolitics. Besides real geopolitics, there's no confluence or nothing else that we're discussing, right? It's just focused because we're delving in geopolitics now. Of course, so the geopolitical relations, external other affairs, is of course something which we have to be just straightforward about this statement, and you have to say yes. You cannot say no to it. Every leader, Carney, left, right, and center, Democratic, Republican. We're going to get the Imperial, the Republican, Imperial Democratic Party, aka the North American Collective Workers' Party, to fuse Canada and the United States, the North American Collective Workers' Party, to fuse Canada and the United States. We're going to get the North American Collective Workers' Party to fuse Canada and the United States. So we're going to get the North American Collective Workers' Party to fuse Canada and the United States. So consequently, in consequence, that's always a yes. That's always a yes. That's always a yes. Consequently. Right? There's no. You cannot negotiate with this statement. Neither Canadians, neither my brothers and sisters in the USA. It's a constant. It's like the pi symbol in mathematics. It's a constant. It's always something which is a constant, of course, appellation. It does not change. It does not fluctuate. It does not change. It does not fluctuate. You know? Does not change. Watch it for children. Just put maybe a muzzle if they're more dangerous. That's the compromise which we got to make. Because sometimes there's children here and the dog can, just a muzzle best. I understand you need to get exercise, your dog also, but if it's one of those potential animals who might have teeth, make a compromise, a muzzle. That's the 50-50 compromise. Public, private responsibilities and duties and obligations. Maybe a muzzle best, Maybe a muzzle best for certain dogs. I'm not a dog connoisseur, I don't mind petting them unless they're poodles, because if they're long hair, I get sneezed, I get some allergic reactions, and I start sneezing. So that's something which you have to be complimentary about. See that branch there? That's falling soon, you know. So that's falling soon, and that's about to fall here. So that's the danger zone. See this branch? That's why I always warn people about the branches. See how it's standing there? Look at that. So that will also almost fall soon there, with some wind, with some. So that will always fall soon. That will always fall soon with that. That was always gonna fall, maybe in consequence. So basically what we're doing is, of course, the geopolitical relations. See the branch? Look at that. That's cracked. This branch here, that's why I always warn people when I pass my past videos. You can see how I warn people about. I let them know that the danger is here because of the branches. The added pressure on the branches can, of course, cause the extremities to fall, and this looks very dangerous. See, this is a big one. So that branch there, you gotta be prudent. Now I know that it's here when I cross at night. That's something which we gotta be aware and let other people know, as I will let people know, of course, often, that there's that possibility of branches falling down on you. So the geopolitical statement again is, of course, our primary interests: economic, financial, commercial, diplomatic, military, defense, is to have the best, most cordial relations with each other. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. You cannot negotiate with that. So it's non-negotiable. And you cannot say no or maybe. It's a yes. It has been so for the past 70 years, 75 plus years. It will be so for the coming decades in the 21st century. For, I guess, a long period of time, whatever that period of time in the 21st century, of which we're now the first quarter already past 25 years. So and this is reciprocal for my brothers and sisters in the Canadians, this is a constant, it does not change. So that's our main interest, to have the best, most cordial economic, financial, commercial, security, military, socio-economic, sports, dynamics, cultural, commercial, import-export relations with each other, between Canada and the United States. That's our main foreign affairs objective, and should be, if it's not, for all Democrats, Republicans, Liberals, Conservatives, and for the Democratic Imperial Republican Party, for the fusion of Canada and the United States thereof. Pledge your allegiance, aka the North American Collective Workers' Party, aka North Democratic Republican Centrist, pro-labor, love universal revolutionary centrist. My centrism is tied hand in hand with my Trinity of TV. So as a North American-centric philosopher, artist, and athlete, and mystic, and independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, and theorist, and strategist, that I discuss, of course, the bipolar, not to be confused with the psychological, psychiatric condition, but the bipolar is in the strategy for the 21st century. Total dominion and total dominance. Benevolent one, benevolent one, benevolent one. Of course, to be consequential and the prudent on the 21st century where we are now, you know. So that's what it is, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, and that's what we gotta get on that left and right, and we're gonna get it on left, and here we are, made it to the top. We're gonna go get that hydration, and oh yes, yellow flowers, thank you, and then we're gonna discuss the DRT, because the Death Fusion theory is part of my bipolar strategy for the North American Collective, you know. That is something which we have, and something which we do, you know, for the North American Collective here. Wow, it's my favorite spot, headquarters of the Dancing Goddess Dragon Kingdom. I gotta admire a little bit of that flowers here, and that's how we got, and it's beautiful. That's how we got, and that's what we do, and that's how we're gonna get on the drill, man. See, look at that. Thank you, public workers, for putting these beautiful yellows. I just love these. It's just so nice, man. If you don't have a garden, you can come have a public garden here. It's just really a great job. Just gonna embellish my whole nurture. I love gardens like this. Here I love to come dance with that, and here's a little bit of that rock and roll, you know, for the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters, plumbers. That's what it is with that. And that's how we gotta get drilling, man. To get it on the go, to get it on the left and the right, and those who do, you know. For the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, and all those, of course, involved in the production and the distribution of food. And that's how we're gonna get drilling all the way, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. The butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors. Oh, nice. See, this is where I want to be buried. A third of me in the back of the Belvedere there. Third of me at the back of the Belvedere. Third of me, of course, to be buried in ancient Egypt. Well, not the ancient Egypt where the pyramids are. And of course, to be XYZ, to be buried in Papa Crowley, Hampstead, New Jersey. Hampstead, New Jersey, Hampstead, New Jersey. That's how we got, and that's how we got to rock and roll. Farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all involved in the production, distribution of food, and gonna turn a little bit of that left and that right, and that's how we're gonna get it. And so we're gonna get some of that play and get some of that loving and twist left or right and left or right, and firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, and all involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those who gotta distribute, make some food now and make some XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing with the left and the right, and all those who build those satellites. We need to build more sats, and to make, of course, defense, security service for SSD, so SSD, security service and defense, you know, that's how we gotta get drilling, you know, for total security, total service, total defense across the 63. We got a fuse, Canada, United States, VMI, DRT, Detro Fusion Theory, CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, Democratic Fusion Theory for the North American Collective. But it is a little bit of that sunshine. See, that's the river there. That's the river. We're gonna go hydrate, and we're gonna come back, I guess, a little bit later. We're always gonna come back a bit on the later side of things, and that's what we got. And so we gotta love, man. Somebody lovers and the butchers, the bakers, and the nurses, firefighters. Where the satellites at? So the satellites must be traveling 550 kilometers, right? So 550 kilometers above, there's the satellite constellation. 550 kilometers above, there's thousands of sats. So those thousands of satellites are actually traveling 550 kilometers above. We can't see them because they're high altitude. But those satellites are actually always constantly, because I saw a flash, they're always constantly circling. See? But you can't really see them, right? They go in altitude. So you gotta launch them. So let's say we would launch the satellites from here, right? So if we launch satellites from here, they'll go at 500 kilometers above, right? And then they would be always in motion. So they would have maybe 40 years, 50 years maybe, depending how the lifespan, right? Because there's even satellites from the 60s, 70s out there. You know how to build satellites? Let me know. We're gonna build some together. I have no idea how they're built, eh? I just know they're there. We have no idea. We have no idea. So that satellite constellation is 550 kilometers above, you know? So it's always constantly going in a plateau. So they're always going in a symmetrical manner, in the same speed. So there's thousands of satellites, right? So they're always constantly moving. right? Or they're in synchronous, what we call synchronous orbit. We have to go with the planetary movements, right? With the planetary movements. So those, no, fucking your mother. Are these slaves? So we should build more for total security, service, and defense. So 550 kilometers above, right? But that's high above the so satellites are launched in orbit, right? So you launch them, and then they serve a purpose. And that purpose is, of course, different purposes: military purposes, defensive, telecommunications, and of course those sats are always continuous. That's the fascination which I have with sats. That's why I always try to communicate with Elon Musk and other satellite builders, because there's the orbit that doesn't change. So you have to have a little bit of knowledge of physics and whatever the case may be. Physics mostly, and of course technology and radio telecommunication waves, because it's basically by waves. So it's just fascinating, just if you think about it. Now, to do a meditation all day, we can have a little books on satellites and just spend here, and while we march, we discuss it, right? While we march, we discuss sats, me and whatever, satellite builders. It's sats, constellation. It's not just Elon Musk, but of course Starlink is one of the sats which I built also. That's why I'm mentioning, because I built them in the parallel life. I built sats. So sometimes when I come here, I connect with my parallel self, and I kind of get flashes and images of my parallel self who builds satellites all the way in the sky. You know, all the way satellites in the sky. So that appellation and that parallel timeline of mine where I build sats is consequently now to be connected with, of course, the geopolitical events that are transpiring now. But that constellation is 550 miles above. So it's high in the sky. High in the sky. High in the sky. High in the sky. So I could discuss satellites. I could with somebody who knows. And of course, I can discuss geopolitics and how my will, together with our will, to build more sats and massive centers for total security, total service, total defense for the Imperial, of course, defense and service, of which we have to be consequential about. That's what we have to be doing. Because my theories have to be for the 21st century. So now that I am discussing satellites, where we're going to build more and perform and do webcams all across, of course, for total integration of the citizenry in the plateau, for total service. Look at that. Isn't that magnificent? How it's split like a victory sign almost, like a V, and then another V above. Isn't that beautiful? You see, the nature and civilization, they gotta go together, you know. Nature and civilization, they gotta go together. Nature and civilization, they gotta go together. So that's why it's the plateaus, to consequently my theories, which are mainly bipolar, not in the psychiatric, psychological sense, but it is in, of course, that's what it is with that, and that's what we got. So consequently, the bipolar strategy for total dominance and dominion, a benevolent one, not to be confused again, bipolar with the psychiatric condition, psychological condition, but bipolar is merely a reference to my strategy, which includes the DRT, the CIT, Citizen Integration, and the DFT, which is consequently a mass call for a PPP, because I predicted what's happening now. So those sats, I need to know operationally to build more supercomputer centers for total monitoring everything that's coming in the empire. By airplanes, everything that's coming in by the airplanes at the airports, and everything that's coming in by the ports. Because that's why we're going to get rid of that border. We don't need the Canadian border in the US. We need to fuse my way best, Imperial, Perpetual, Democratic, Imperial, Union, Public-Private Partnership. We don't need the border. Security doesn't make sense. The danger comes from the exterior of North America, of Canada, United States. Internally, yes, we might already have internal domestic problems because of our involvements of what I call, of course, this is me or geopolitics. This is me as a geopolitical theoretical analyst and strategist here. This is not me as an artist now speaking, right? Because you got to separate those when I discuss geopolitics, because my DMI, direct military involvement, which is consequently to do with NATO, the NATO complex, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, of which we are part of, is of course what has in the past decades fomented that we have diasporas, non-NATO member diaspora groups, which might be financed from exterior NATO countries, from non-NATO countries, which might foment unrest and riots and even employ criminal underworld organizations to, of course, foment criminal activities internally in the United States. So that's something which we have to be aware of. We have to be aware on the consequential prudence, and that's why we have to be doing like that. Bisous, bisous, I like that. That means kisses, kisses, kisses. That I like. Kisses anytime. You gotta be of age though, and I guess, gotta be of age, so that I can dig. I got trillions of those, trillions of bisous, kisses. So here, that's my favorite skyscrapers, and now we're gonna discuss the DRT, the depth of fusion too. You can see part of the river there, and that's how we got consequentially. I'm just gonna stretch a bit, and here we got bisous, a little bit of that French, and that's how we got, and so we got a little bit of that beautiful bridges there, and hi. That's a beautiful bridge here, and I like the sky there. I think the border of the United States is somewhere there, and somebody put a French sticker if you read French there.
Oh, that's can't read.
No, you cannot read French. Where are you guys from?
Toronto.
Oh, okay, from Toronto. That's why, eh? It's more French out here. That's basically French for kisses. So bisous, that is kiss. Yeah, that's what that means. I speak French very well, that's why. Anyways, you can come here. I'm just gonna gonna finish my workout. You're welcome. So continuing, of course, what I gotta take on the right side. Gotta get dripping on the left. Please don't leave trash like this. See, this has to be recycled. Don't leave trash like this. So it might have fell out of somebody's pockets, So I give you the benefit of the doubt. This is unacceptable. This can be eaten by a squirrel, by a chipmunk, by whatever creature might be eating this. So please, 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 do not leave this here, Do not leave this here. This is something which has to be recycled. So please, please recycle this. Please, I'm gonna recycle it myself. I give the benefit of the doubt, because somebody runs, it falls out of the pocket, unaware, because I'm not aware of social matters, social communications. I have Asperger's, so I have to be told more directly, don't talk to me, or no thanks, or have a nice day, and that's it. Or I don't like violence, I don't like violence, but force sometimes is necessary. As much as I understand peace through strength, I do not fully support it. You gotta be complimentary by some, like that French word said, some bisous, some kisses, some love and understanding, right? That's why. But yes, sometimes force is necessary, sometimes is required to deter violence, because I've been attacked by surprise, was bloodied up, hit my head, and be careful here. If you come, you gotta be aware, because that's dangerous terrain here, So this is in the wilderness, and watch for falling branches. I forgot to let my fellow citizens know they're from Toronto. They don't speak French, so I always like to teach some French to people who don't speak some French. And see, just like I said before, you got, sometimes the branches fall, and you gotta be aware of that. That's all we got here, So we're gonna get drilling on that, So some things which we have to be doing, About other consequential matters of geopolitics is that I predicted what's happening now, so we're gonna start on that before I get into the DRT in a minute. So we need to implement my Trinity theories, for the bipolar strategy. The bipolar strategy was, of course, consequently not for psychology, not for psychiatrical matters. It's not relevant to psychology, and the psychiatric condition, but it merely has to do with, of course, geopolitics. And of course, in the geopolitical realm, in the geopolitical realm is, of course, geopolitics. That it is of concern, and that's what I do best. Geopolitical theoretical analysis. I'm gonna scoop it in right to the left here. right to the left. And that's what it is. So in the concordium of the geopolitics is, of course, the simulacrum is that it is the balance which we must attain by my bipolar strategy for the North American Dominion, for the collective, the Democratic Imperial Republic, for the North American collective, for the Democratic Imperial Republic, of which we got to constitute the Democratic Imperial Republic together by a fusion of Canada and the United States via my DRT-CIT, that refusion treaty for total 21st century dominance and dominion, benevolent one nonetheless, benevolent dominion via the instituting of my bipolar strategy. So consequently, now we're just going to discuss geopolitics. That's why we need to build more servers and, of course, supercomputers and whatever the case may be. Servers and supercomputers and whatever else we need to build and whatever else we need to build on the case, you know. That's what we got to get doing with that. That's what we got to get doing on the drill. Here we can go up a little bit. Here there's a trail, but it's not that well-known trail, but I just want to show a little bit of that heart with it, you know. Oh yes, and I came for the right reason, see? Because I don't mind you drinking, smoking, loving, making out, but this is unacceptable. Unacceptable. We got what? We got flora, we got fauna, we got rabbits. Yep. What else? We got rabbits. Yep. We got rabbits. Rabbits. All right. Okay. Yeah, so that's something which I call all for make an effort, you know, to give it on the go with that. So that's the effort to do, you know, just clean, because here is a place of preservation of nature. We got rabbits, we got chipmunks, we got beavers, we got, of course, also something else. We got, of course, some raccoons. And hawks, my hawk, HWK, the totem bird. So the DRT now, that fusion theory, before I switch a little bit to that French. The DRT, that fusion theory, consequently, we're gonna get the DRT, the fusion theory, for the creation of the UE. It's a geopolitical part of my integral bipolar geopolitical strategy for total dominance and dominion, benevolent dominance and dominion of the new empire, the Democratic Imperial Empire. Let's sign the articles on 9/11. Let's do it on 9/11. Sign the articles of perpetual union. My brothers and sisters, the king is absent. It's time to create the Dragon Army, aka North American Imperial SSD Legion, with the North American Integrated Dance League, to be, of course, for environmental education and action. For environmental education and action 24/7. For environmental education and action, something. For environmental inaction, of course, it takes the individual action. A black bug tried to get into my right eye. It's gonna get eaten. it's gonna get eaten, it's gonna get eaten, and that's how I'm gonna get here consequently. And my that's how you do, and that's how we're gonna get doing on the left and on the right, and that's how we do, and that's how we're gonna get on that left. That's how we're gonna get it on the go, you know. So something which we have to be on the left and on the right, and here we go, and that's how we're gonna get consequential about, you know. That's just how we live, man. That's just how we do it, you know. And here we go. Here we go. Shalom. Best thing I'll say about that, man. So the DRT, super important that I discuss it. We're going to the sun. Actually, we're going to go into the sun a little bit. You know, since we went to the top, we're going to turn it and switch it into French. The DRT is integral to my bipolar, again, not to be confused with the psychiatric psychological condition. To the bipolar, merely geopolitical speaking, the bipolar strategy for total 21st century dominance and dominions, again, benevolent dominance and dominion of the 21st century by the fusion of Canada and the United States into the Democratic Imperial Republic, and the creation of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions thereof, the Dragon Army and the Dancing Goddess Army, aka the North American Imperial SSD Legion, to be only serving for the 63, 10 provinces, 50 and 3, which can fuse into super states for, of course, the Super Imperial Dominion, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, for SSD only, and the North American Integrated Imperial Dance League, the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, GODDSS, with a God everyday kisses, and God bless the Empire, and God has kissed the Empire. God bless the Empire, and God has kissed the Empire. So that's going to be the total fusion thereof, and the DRT is integral. So what is the DRT? The debt refusion theory, DRT. The DRT stands for D, debt, R, refusion theory. This is my theory, and of course it is the only solution, or of course, if not the only solution, it is in major part my DRT, my debt refusion theory, has to be, of course, concorded and implemented similarly to where we are now, economically, financially, commercially, of course, in a parallel manner of which we are consequently on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing on that. So consequently, we are facing three main problems in economic matters, in social matters, and of course financial matters, and all matters of which we are facing now to get where we are today in 2025. In 2025, we are whatever the case may be to get doing on that, and of course we are seeing a record-breaking price levels every day. Prices keep increasing. Parallel to the prices increasing, we have seen, of course, the record-breaking debt. Credit card debt has reached, of course, a sky level, record-breaking levels of the debt, record-breaking levels of debt, record-breaking in the past 5 years for both Canada and the United States, because my DRT theory, we're going to have to implement it binationally, because that's the bipolar strategy. It's basically to create a new bipolar order by fusing Canada and the United States. So it's going to be the two-headed empire, right? With two heads, two faces of the empire. This fusion of Canada and the United States, the North and the South, is going to have two heads. Canada and the United States, the North and the South, is going to be like a two-faced, giving good to those who do good, bad to those who do bad, against us and internally. So we're going to have some justice, right? So the DRT, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, The DRT, debt provision theory, integrates monetary integration theory in it. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, right? In the European Union. It's important to note that my DRT, debt provision theory, integrates in it MIT, monetary integration theory, not to be confused with red, my favorite color, not to be confused with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So of course the DRT consequently integrates, my DRT integrates monetary integration theory. And here, if you want to check some French, you got poems, but that's, you got to understand French a little bit good. You understand?
Yeah.
Ok, toi tu comprends c'est quoi? Sur plan bleu, les saillies veines nouées, and it goes over here. Everywhere around the mountain you have French poetry. So this speaks about the wind, crève le vent, nous portons la pulsation des roches. It's like we're putting the pulsations of the rocks in our veins. Anyways, so if you're interested in French poetry, you can check it here on the mountain, and you can see that's the east of Montreal, and that's the other mountain, Outremont, and then the river surrounds the whole island, the whole river. We're actually an island here, surrounded by a big river. Big island though, 2.5 million people, eh? It's a big island. It's surrounded by a big river, Snake River. So of course, yours truly, which we have to do, is something which we have to be compromising with the French language on a daily basis. Is something which you always have to consequently be aware of, because we love our French, and that's how we rock and roll with it. You know, that's how we rock and roll with it. So consequently, we got that. I wonder where this was made. Is it made in Quebec or made in USA? It's too old to, I guess it wore off, because I see some, when I go in Montreal, I see that they're made in the USA. Some of these, metal and oil and iron, but some are made, of course, in the USA. So I'm always curious. So back to the DRT, the debt profusion theory, of course. The DRT, the debt profusion theory is, of course, something which we have to implement. The DRT, debt profusion theory, and of course, we have to implement it consequently. The DRT, debt profusion theory. The DRT, debt profusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. Somebody put that sticker there, but I check what it is. I'm not too familiar. Is that soccer related? I'm more of a dancing is my favorite sport. And these are, yeah, these are berries. These are edible, but they're not ready yet. These are wild berries. Wild berries. That's what we got here, see? We got wild berries, man. That's a black one. See? Wild berries. Oh, we got wild berries here too. Yeah, we got wild berries. The DRT is gonna give us some wild ride for the Empire. Takes a little bit of that nature, eh? Force of nature, and that's how we gotta get drilling, you know, so that's how we gotta get drilling now. You know, so we gotta categorize it and we gotta implement it. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna implement the DRT because it's integral to the bipolar Imperial strategy for total 21st century dominance and dominion, a benevolent dominance and dominion, for of course consequently is something which we have to do. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, Canadian coast to coast, ocean to ocean, including my $10,000, my $10,000, your $10,000, all of the debt, public and private debt. We're going to add it together. These are not edibles. Don't eat those, eh? Don't eat these red. They're beautiful, but leave them be. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt. We're going to convert all the public and the private debt into US dollars. All that public and private debt, we're going to add it in my 10,000, your 10,000. We're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the US. Because my DRT theory, the debt profusion theory, which integrates monetary integration theory, has to be implemented binationally. Canada and United States. So all that money is going to create public-private debt and all the money in circulation. We're going to create a new currency like they did in the European Union, because the Germans, Italians, French, Belgians, and many other countries, they destroyed the national central banks and they canceled their old national currencies back in the 90s. So we're going to do something similar in the 21st century with North American collective and common geopolitical and political and economic internal domestic affairs, bipolar domestic affairs. So all the debt, public and private, we're going to create a new currency. That's going to be the new central bank, and we're going to create the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit. That's how we're going to be creating the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit, the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit, the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% after that. With that money, we're going to create this new central bank. With all that money, all that the implementation of my DRT will create this new currency called the UE. All the public-private debt and all the money that exists in circulation is going to be the initial money supply for this new currency, which is going to have the value of the US dollar. The value of the US dollar, whatever it is with that, the value of the US dollar. So with that money, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure of the collective North American civilization. We're going to rebuild the infrastructure. We're going to rebuild the bridges. Build bridges, build 44 tunnels. Massive 44 tunnel construction is inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the Montreal Underground Village. And of course, I'm no supporter of Hamas, but supposedly they built underneath Gaza, between 350 miles and 600 miles underneath tunnels. So inspired also by those tunnels, mass tunnels across the empire, 44 mass tunnel projects in case of a thermonuclear war for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex of the empire and all who come to join us. We're going to create a new passport, a new currency. We're going to get rid of the border. That got to go. Create the Imperial Perpetual Union. We're going to, of course, smash finance citizens' fitness, citizens to work out via massive public-private partnership and all security institutions and organizations, from the police services to the military. We're going to fuse into the Dragonomy complex, the North American Imperial SSD Legion, and of course, we're going to mass finance fitness. We're going to mass finance also intra-tourism across the 63. It's going to merge the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. So this new 63 for the establishment of a Esprit de Corps and getting to know all the empire. We're going to, of course, also learn some French. And of course, we're going to mass finance citizens to work out and train and exercise. And we're going to mass finance that workout, training and exercising, and consequently with that. So that's something which we have to do. We have no choice but to do that. We have no choice because we are facing 3 million economic, financial, commercial problems of a very vigorous, problematic nature. One is the prices of everything keeps rising in both Canada and the United States. Of course, the credit cards keep increasing the debt levels. Servicing the debt is paying more interest. I don't have a credit card myself. I have a $10,000 to the RBC, to the Royal Bank of Canada. 10,000. These are a different color than other ones with red. See, these are a bit orange. They're no good. Don't touch those to eat. You can admire them, just gaze at them, They're no good. So basically, fundamentally, consequently, in consequence, we're going to implement the DRT theory. We're going to create the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit for the empire. We're going to create the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragonomy, aka North American Imperial SSD Legion, the Security Service and Defense. Look at that. Out of the rocks, 4 branches. Look at that, out of the rocks. Isn't that amazing? Mother Nature. Wow. See? Look. Wow. See, 4 branches. 4 branches. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 branches. See? It's 1, 3, but it's got a common roots. And it branches off 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See? From how it stays there. Look at that. Kind of from the rock, and it's kind of amazing. Isn't that amazing? Just find that amazing. See, Mother Nature here is quite amazing. Anyways, Mother Nature is the greatest scientist and artist, so what can I argue with the goddess here, my mistress? I'm a piece of dust. Look at these trees. They're 7 times my size. I'm a tiny piece of dust compared to them, I'm just a nobody, but I'm good at geopolitics, and paradoxically, the dancer, priestess, dragon, zeros, priestess, and the DRT, debt fusion tree. We're gonna have to make it. I'm gonna have to create the UE. We're gonna mass finance rebuilding and building the 444, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, where me and Donald Trump is gonna inaugurate. It's gonna be the biggest sports arena coliseum ever built, and of course, it's gonna be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, aka the Caesar Superdome is gonna be the Caesar Superdome, and of course it's gonna be also known before as the Caesar Superdome. Before that, it was used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz, and before that, it was known as the Caesars. Now it's known as Caesar Superdome in Louisiana, where one of my top 5 Super Bowls was played. The Super Bowl 47, also known as Harbaugh Bowl, also known as Blackout Bowl, also known as Harbaugh Bowl, where my 49ers lost by only 3 points, but none of my favorite nonetheless. And of course, before that, it was used to be known, of course, as another one, was to be known as the Mercedes-Benz. Before it was Caesar Superdome, so it's changed name a few times, and before that it was known as the Louisiana Superdome, where it's a big arena. So we're gonna build that massive, biggest ever sports complex coliseum on the Canadian-US border, and me and Donald Trump, we're gonna inaugurate it. Me and Donald Trump, we're gonna be inaugurating that on the Canadian-US border. We're gonna inauguration by, let's do it, start pulling the bricks, and we're gonna have to get a bit. Let's do it, start starting the papers here on the Belvedere there on 9/11 maybe preference. I don't remember the event, but I written about it. Supposedly I written in my journals. I was in high school, but that's how we're gonna build. We're gonna build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, Forgotten Goddess Temple, Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess Temple. GODDSS. God bless the empire, and Goddess kiss or lick, rock and roll both sides, you know. And of course, we're gonna, whoever wants kisses gets kisses, licks gets licks. And of course, we're gonna rebuild more dams, hydroelectric dams here, rebuild the whole infrastructure, the bridges, and of course we're gonna rebuild it, and of course the pyramid, house of the dragon, red, scarlet, red, and of course we're gonna be rebuilding also the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. Like I said, it's gonna be the biggest ever sports complex ever built, 21st century for sportus in perpetuitis, and of course the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community and LGBTQ community, of which I'm part of, and LGBTQ and neurodivergent, and that's all I got, and that's all we gotta get doing on that. In a parallel life, I know everything there is about. I think that's 5G. In a parallel life, I know everything about this because I'm an ASPI scientist, technology developer, and I build telecommunication towers, 3G, 4G, 5G networks, and supercomputers, and satellites. And that's why I was discussing specifically the ones that are 500 miles miles or kilometers. The SATs, Starlink SATs, another SATs, synchronous orbit. What's that? We gotta learn more every day. I know my geopolitics, but I could trade. We gotta complement, because building more SATs is part. I'm building more massive centers across the empire where citizens can go and visualize everything that's coming in. All the airports and wherever there needs to be volunteering for building those 44 tunnels. And we're going to implement the North American Strategic 911 protocols, which is my protocols and philosophies written over the past 7 years for total security, total service, total defense. Total security, total service, total defense for the North American Collective. And look at this beauty. In a parallel life, I wouldn't know to discuss hours and hours about it, but now I guess I know a little bit. But it's integral to our security, service, and defense. And go Canadian Security Establishment, go CSE. That's that good motto in Latin, which of course is a great motto if you think about it. And that's how we gotta get that communications now. So that's how I gotta get it on the drill and on the now, and that's how I gotta get on the left and on the right. I'm gonna switch to that French because we la belle province, pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. We're gonna get some minutes of French because we la belle province. So encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. Support the dream. My dream is for the fusion of Canada and the United States in the Democratic Imperial Order by a public-private partnership and CIT, is an integration tree, and the DRT, the detrofusion tree, which I just discussed for the creation of the UE, the universal exchanging and the democratic fusion thereof to create two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. The North American Integrated SSD Legion included based on my new 911 Dragon Total North American protocols for total security, total service, total defense, and the Dragon Army integrated with all organizations, institutions, and mobilizing mass percentage of the population for building the 44 tunnels and for total security, service, and defense coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're going to do a great census across Canada. We're going to get rid of the border, create a common passport, and give some amnesty and implement the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act. And of course, we're going to implement some of those strategies and for total coast to coast, ocean to ocean, along and parallel with the North American Dominion, the fusion of Canada and the United States thereof, our resources, the population, vice versa, complementary in this new bipolar New World Order, which we're gonna fuse this bipolar New World Order by fusing Canada and the United States. Think about it like an empire, kind of with two heads, and Imperial Democratic Republican Order with two faces or two heads. For good, for blessing, and for justice, and pledge allegiance. We're gonna get some French now. Français, bienvenue, je suis sur la montagne. Québécoise, je viens de faire l'entraînement physique de la montagne. Ma maîtresse, la forêt de la montagne, me manquait un peu. Le docteur, les roches de la montagne, me manquait un peu. Ça faisait 4 jours. Samedi, dimanche, lundi, mardi. Aujourd'hui, le mercredi, le 9 juillet 2025. Demain, la pleine lune commence à 4h44, je pense. Ça dure 3 jours. Fait que de demain, jeudi à vendredi, samedi jusqu'à dimanche. Dans mon calendrier, bien sûr, domestique, par la déesse. Bien sûr, dans cette concordance où je suis rendu sur la montagne. Ça fait du bien, faire le plaisir ici pour que ça fasse du bien ici. Puis regardez, juste faites attention parce que des fois, il y a des branches qui tombent. Fait que toujours faites attention, des fois, il y a des branches qui tombent, puis c'est des branches qui tombent d'en haut, des fois. Fait que c'est des choses qui sont en concordance avec ces éléments de la platitude, puis de l'organisation, bien sûr, que ça soit direct et en haut. Regardez comme cette branche-là, des fois, ça craque d'en haut de même. Pour ça, j'avertis les gens, surtout dans mes vidéos, vous voyez, c'est là, tu avais de tomber, mais il n'y a pas de danger, mais il y a d'autres dangers ici, là, qu'on voit plein des branches, là, de même. Ça, j'avertis les gens dans mes vidéos, tu sais, que cette branche-là, pour ça, je vous dis, hein, regardez, cette branche-là, là, t'es tassé, vous voyez, c'est ça qu'il faut la tasser du chemin, il faut la tasser là-bas, tu sais, tac! Comme celle-là aussi est plus petite, mais si ça tombe d'en haut, mais sur un enfant, ou, tu sais, vous êtes c'est pour ça, soyez prudents, puis sachez que les arbres sont pas si en santé, fait qu'il y a des branches qui tombent, surtout qu'il commence à pleuvoir, ben vite, s'il commence à venter, il y a du vent, bien sûr, qui vient, soyez prudents, parce que vous êtes dans la forêt, hein, on est dans le monde sauvage ici, méchant, on n'est plus dans la civilisation, fait qu'il faut se soumettre comme loi, les lois de la mère nature, puis les lois de la civilisation. Civilisatis naturis pluribus imperius consecratus dogragonis pluralis latinus. Je commencerai pas à chanter en rock'n'roll en latin, même que je puisse le faire depuis que je veux. Vous savez c'est quoi la devise de Montréal? Ben, c'est en latin. Concordia salus. J'ai demandé à mes frères et sœurs en uniforme l'autre jour de la SPVM. Je suis pas parfait, ils sont pas parfaits, mais ils savaient pas c'était quoi la devise. Je dis, ben là, pour servir. Puis moi, j'ai servi dans la SPVM dans le temps de Louis XVI. Pas un petit bout, pas longtemps. Parce que Louis XVI, j'ai fait du bras de fer avec Louis XVI, puis il m'avait craqué le bras droit, là, fait que j'ai pas pu l'utiliser pendant bien longtemps, là. Louis XVI, tu sais, peut-être il m'a donné de sa force, de cette réincarnation. Vous savez que moi, je crois à des réincarnations, mais des fois, j'étais né homme, femme, homme. L'ancienne Égypte, prêtresse de Rome, les légions, capitaine, fermier, puis boulanger, puis travailleur en construction, puis tout bien sûr d'autres travaux que j'ai fait dans des vies antérieures. C'est pour ça maintenant, vous avez le 50-50. Je suis androgène pansexuel, puis je fais partie bien sûr de la communauté et arc-en-ciel, puis neurodivergence, puis je crois à la réincarnation, mais je suis Asperger's, j'ai l'Asperger's de l'autisme non fonctionnel, donc je suis moins capable dans les interactions sociales, ça en vient moins vite, moins fort, puis certaines choses sont dures à faire comprendre, nous. Il faut nous le dire plus directement, tu sais. Je suis pas capable de dire que quelqu'un, homme-femme, vous êtes adulte, vous voulez me faire de l'amour, ou ami avec bénéfice seulement. Ami avec bénéfice! Sinon, je veux rien savoir, juste le rock'n'roll, vous voulez le travail, puis bien sûr, le problème chez nous, chez les ASPI, les autistes hautement fonctionnels, j'utilise encore le mot Asperger's, la terminologie qui me désigne que ce que je suis moi-même, c'est qu'il faut dire que moi-même, avec l'Asperger's, c'est 3 problèmes, fondamentalement. Le manque d'amis. Pour ça, je n'ai pas besoin de gros amis, là, mais juste pour dire si vous voulez être ami avec bénéfice. Là. Puis le problème, c'est aussi la dépression puis le suicide. Chez les Asperger, c'est 9 fois plus que la population totale. Puis le sans-emploi, le chômage, là, c'est 80%. C'est inacceptable chez les Aspergers qu'il y ait 80% de chômage. 4 sur 5, là, 8 sur 10, 0,8 sur une unité, tu sais, c'est 80%, pas 8, là, c'est 11 fois plus que la plupart des gens. 11 fois plus. Moi, j'ai eu bien de l'emploi, j'ai bien aimé, mais c'est sûr que ça a été plus difficile. Depuis 7 ans, l'emploi, j'ai gardé le plus, c'est 4 mois. Après ça, j'ai eu une probation de 3 mois pour un emploi. Après ça, j'ai eu d'autres emplois. Puis c'est sûr, ça a été difficile. Bien sûr, savoir, puis bien, que ça faisait des années, comme l'avaient dit plusieurs personnes, diagnostiqué que j'ai l'Asperger's, mais j'ai jamais voulu vraiment l'accepter, là, que j'ai l'Asperger's, parce que, tu sais, dire que j'ai l'Asperger's, quelqu'un qui, tu sais, je suis différent, fait que c'est comme un stigme, mais maintenant, on fait de plus en plus de démystification, qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger's, et qu'est-ce que c'est pas l'Asperger's, qu'est-ce que c'est, puis qu'est-ce que c'est pas, puis ce n'est pas une maladie mentale, fait que quand j'entends des gens citoyens, des fois, qui disent c'est une maladie, non, c'est une condition de neurodivergence, oui, dans certaines choses, on a de la misère. Il y a des choses que nous, on a de la misère à comprendre. Il faut nous dire plus directement. Puis des fois, on peut dire nous autres aussi des choses directes aussi qui peuvent offenser, mais on ne se rend pas compte parce que nous, notre cerveau, il y a des mutations. C'est sûr, ces mutations-là ne sont pas visibles au niveau du crâne. Ce n'est pas à l'extérieur que ça gonfle comme une bulle dehors là, de la tête. C'est sûr que c'est à l'intérieur. C'est comme, pensez-y aux micropuces. C'est petit, c'est nano. Tu sais, nano, c'est des millimètres, millimètres, micro, là, c'est des mutations au niveau microscopique. C'est pas au niveau microscopique, tu sais. Fait que ces mutations-là font que nous, on voit le monde différemment. On engage avec le monde différemment de la manière qu'on communique des fois, c'est un peu étrange, bizarre, et c'est étrange, c'est bizarre, c'est des comportements un peu étranges, un peu bizarres, un peu qui ne sont que des fois, on peut, si on ne sait pas c'est quoi, la citoyenne a l'Asperger's, on peut dire que c'est une maladie mentale. C'est pas ça. Et nous, la plupart de notre temps se trouve quand qu'on s'engage, quand on travaille, quand on étudie, quand on fait les choses qu'on appelle nos intérêts spéciaux. Je suis connu comme obsessif, mais dire obsessif, c'est pour quelqu'un qui est neurotypique. Puis sachez que nous, les Asperger, il n'y en a pas bien dans le monde, moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcent. Là. C'est 0,44% là, des citoyens qui ont l'Asperger. Puis il n'y a pas beaucoup d'Aspergers dans le monde, il n'y a pas beaucoup d'autistes non fonctionnels. Des Aspergers, des Aspi, comme moi, il n'y en a pas bien. Des fois, il y en a qui ne savent même pas c'est quoi l'Asperger's. Il y en a qui ne savent même pas l'Asperger's. C'est quoi? Il y en a qui ne savent pas c'est quoi. Vous comprenez? Il faut l'expliquer c'est quoi, parce que nous, on voit le monde différemment. Fait que des choses qu'on puisse dire, des fois, ça peut paraître peut-être, je sais pas, de la droite ou de la gauche ou du centre, mais moi, je le dis, je suis centriste, mon centrisme est nord-américain centrique avec mes philosophies que je fais appel à l'intégration du Canada des États-Unis dans un plateau de partenariat public-privé en tant que je suis moi-même un artiste et philosophe et analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. Mes stratégies de la géopolitique sont pour l'application de qu'est-ce que j'appelle le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Donc, on a fait le grand compromis du français avec le Québec, puis on continue à le faire. Mais c'est sûr que dans d'autres choses, j'ai de la misère. Bien des aspects comme moi, on a de la misère dans certaines choses sociales. C'est parce que on voit le monde différemment. Fait que nous, on s'engage avec intensité, avec concentration, on est super dedans dans les choses qu'on fait. Tu sais, fait que c'est pour avoir une discussion normale, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on définit par normal, puis qu'est-ce que c'est normal, qu'est-ce que ce n'est pas normal, c'est que si vous me parlez de la géopolitique, je vais pouvoir m'exprimer, je vais pouvoir en parler, mais dans d'autres choses, je vais pouvoir avoir la misère, vous comprenez? C'est juste ça, tu sais. C'est juste ça, c'est juste ça, tu sais. C'est juste ça. C'est juste ça. Vous comprenez? C'est pas parce que c'est juste ça, mais ça englobe un peu la situation et le quotidien d'un aspi. Puis ces intérêts spéciaux, aussi connus comme obsessifs, mais encore une fois, pour nous, c'est naturel. Moi, quand je passe des heures à faire des études, à faire des analyses, des événements de la géopolitique, puis ça peut être des discours que les ministres des Affaires étrangères de la Chine, j'analyse le discours des ministres des Affaires étrangères de la Russie, du Moyen-Orient. Il y a des événements, c'est tellement de pays dans le monde, des organisations, ça n'arrête pas. C'est sûr que je suis québécois, canadien, nord-américain, mais la géopolitique, c'est mondial, c'est global. Puis moi-même, je prends beaucoup de fierté dans ce travail. En tant qu'analyste intéressé en géopolitique et indépendance, mes stratégies, c'est pas bipolaire dans le sens pas dans le sens de la psychiatrie puis de la psychologie, pas dans le sens de la psychologie puis de la psychiatrie, c'est dans le sens bipolaire, dans le sens des stratégies. Les stratégies, c'est pas bipolaire. C'est pas bipolaire. De la manière de la psychologie et de la psychiatrie, ça n'a rien à voir avec la psychologie et la psychiatrie, c'est bipolaire. Ma stratégie bipolaire pour la domination et dominion bénévole part du monde dans le 21e siècle, par la fusion du Canada des États-Unis. C'est ma stratégie bipolaire, puis ça contient la théorie d'intégration de la dette, la théorie de la refusion de la dette, que je vais discuter aussitôt parce que c'est ça que je fais moi-même, puis je prends beaucoup de fierté dans mon travail en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. Et bien sûr, je dois dire, je répète, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en 2019. Les problèmes que moi-même, maintenant, je vis juste une crise financière. Je suis en stress financier, mais j'ai de la gratitude. J'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café, j'ai du thé. Fait que juste des amis avec bénéfice pour pas vous faire des illusions, là. Juste échange de massages. Puis si vous voulez me faire de l'amour, que ce soit homme, femme, noir et blanc, mais je suis androgène, pansexuel, monsieur, madame, 50-50. Ça fait des années que je fais partie ouvert de la communauté LGBTQ. Puis justement, récemment, il y a 3 ans et demi que j'ai accepté finalement, mais je suis différent, j'ai l'Asperger's. Fait que je vois le monde différemment, puis je fais partie de cette petite communauté des 0,44% qui ont l'Asperger's. Fait que c'est ça qui est ça. Je ne vais pas dire non. On doit bâtir des ponts avec vous, moi-même, avec les 99,56%, les neurotypiques. Les 99,50% pour les 99% des neurotypiques. 99,56%, vous êtes des neurotypiques. Fait que je dois toujours bâtir des ponts. Les ponts peuvent être petits, moyens, gros ou super énormes de grosseur. Je peux traverser l'océan ou des petites rivières ou des lacs. Ça dépend, tu sais. Ça dépend là, de l'individu par individu. Moi, je suis un individu avec Asperger's. Puis ma souveraineté en tant qu'individu, mon travail, qu'est-ce que je parle par la justice, puis ma contribution, c'est au niveau du rock and roll, parce que j'en compose des chansons rock and roll, c'est ça, je suis bon, je suis artiste. Mais dans d'autres choses, je suis moyen, comme ça, pas bon. Parce que j'ai l'Asperger's, fait que ça fait que j'ai certaines difficultés dans certaines choses. Comme, on va dire, peut-être un retardement au niveau de la compréhension sociale. Je suis pas bon, là, ça va, ça se pareil. Je ne pourrais pas dire que quelqu'un est intéressé de manière sexuelle non plus ou romantique avec moi, femme ou homme. Il faudrait que vous me le disiez. Il faut me le dire, tu sais. Moi, consentement, puis c'est adulte, je vous carte, par exemple. Je vous carte comme quand vous allez à SQDC, là, Société du Québec de consommation de cannabis, là, puis ou d'alcool, des cigarettes ou du club. Dans un club, c'est pareil que je vais fonctionner. Fait que c'est ça qui est ça. C'est de ces choses-là non verbales, non écrites, la communication, que vous, les 99%, ça vous vient naturel. Nous, ça vient difficile à cause de ces mutations. En la misère telle, je vais vous donner un exemple. Tu sais, l'espace personnel de 2-3 mètres, 2-3 pieds, on a tendance à s'approcher vraiment proche dans la discussion, là, comme vraiment proche du corps, du visage. Ça peut être bizarre, ça peut être étrange, mais c'est ça. Ou des fois, faire l'inspection de certains objets dans un marché. Ça fait des années que j'ai ces caractéristiques. C'est pas des symptômes, mais par exemple, dites pas c'est des symptômes. Des symptômes, c'est pour une maladie. C'est des caractéristiques des Asperger's à cause de ces différences. Moi-même, j'inspecte des fois, j'approche proche de mes yeux des objets. Je suis en train de lire de certains détails que les gens s'intéressent même pas à certains détails. C'est des détails, bien sûr, qui s'intéressent même pas dans le quotidien. Tu sais, c'est certains détails que nous, on est intéressés par. Tel que, tu sais, les chiffres sur l'autobus, vous, ça vous intéresse peut-être le numéro de l'autobus, l'autobus 93 ou 66 ou 11 ou 175. Mais nous, on voit les autres chiffres de classification sur l'autobus, puis on s'intéresse, on veut savoir c'est plus qu'est-ce que c'est. Quand vous, peut-être, vous remarquez même pas, je dis, hey, j'ai remarqué même pas que c'est sur l'autobus, ces chiffres-là. Ou d'autres choses de même, tu sais, des détails un peu bizarres, que ça, peut-être ça sert à rien, là, mais c'est des choses, des caractéristiques d'Asperger. Fait que j'ai appris à vivre avec, je dois dire ma gratitude, je vais vivre avec, il n'y a pas de médicaments, pauvre. C'est pas une maladie, il n'y a pas de médicaments, vous pouvez pas enlever ces mutations-là dans le cerveau, c'est ta vie, puis on ne sait pas vraiment qu'est-ce qui cause. La cause, c'est soit héréditaire, génétique, biologique, ou peut-être, la cause, ça peut être aussi l'environnement, quelque chose qui cause. J'ai beaucoup de la gratitude. J'ai survécu la COVID entre février et mars 2020, ça fait plus que 5 ans, je dois dire, puis je vous fais bien sûr, j'insiste que vous gardez les protocoles d'hygiène, tu sais, on se lave les mains quand on dehors, quand on touche les choses, le clavier à la banque, des choses comme ça. Je pense que c'est des bonnes habitudes. J'encourage les gens à faire l'entraînement physique. Moi-même, j'ai perdu entre 80 et 93 livres. En 2017, j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. J'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte en 2017. Et cet événement, bien sûr, ça m'a fait sortir de ma dépression en 2017. Avant ça, j'étais en dépression, puis suicidaire. Avant ça, j'étais en dépression, puis suicidaire. Puis j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. Et en 2017, bien sûr, j'ai sorti de ma dépression. Et bien sûr, quand j'ai traversé le Canada, avant ça, j'étais en dépression. Hein. Ça, c'est un problème chez les Asperger. Un haut niveau de dépression, 9 fois plus que chez vous, la majorité des gens des neurotypiques. Et bien sûr, dans ce temps, aujourd'hui, je me tasse du chemin, bien sûr, parce qu'il y en a des cyclistes. Fait que le 9 fois plus chez nous, chez les autistes, chez les Asperger, la dépression puis le suicide, c'est vraiment 9 fois plus. Le taux de chômage, c'est 11 fois. C'est vraiment inacceptable, 80%. Fait que les amis, ça me dérange pas. Je suis joyeux. Puis si vous voulez être mon ami, bien sûr, prêtez allégeance les gens, vous savez à quoi m'attendre. Mais les amis avec bénéfice seulement. J'aurais besoin des amis pour l'échange de massages. J'en ai fait 5 ans que j'en veux des massages parce que je m'entraîne souvent, mais je suis la gratitude, je vais pouvoir prendre un bain. Fait que en prenant un bain, là, ça va faire du bain. Ça va faire du bien, du bain, du bien. Prendre les mains dans les airs, québécoises. On est dans la forêt, ça niaise. Ça cycliste, mes cousins et mes cousines. Ça bouge des fesses quand je rock'n'roll. Pas besoin de l'eau bénite, le fleur jaune et de la bière à la place. Ça, je suis bon dans le rock'n'roll, par exemple. Je suis en compose, je suis artiste, mais qu'est-ce que vous voulez? J'ai l'Asperger, fait que je vis avec ça. Je vais vivre avec ça. Il n'y a pas de médicaments qui peuvent se donner, tu sais. Tu ne peux pas te donner des médicaments chez les Asperger parce que ça, c'est pas quelque chose que vous pouvez régler, tu sais. C'est pas une maladie que vous pouvez régler, tu sais. C'est pas une maladie que vous pouvez, bien sûr, enlever de quelqu'un, tu sais. Ça se fait que moi-même, je dois travailler sur mes caractéristiques. Je dois toujours travailler sur ces caractéristiques puis être conscient que vous, les 99%, vous voyez le monde d'une manière, puis moi-même, j'essaie, je recule. Si je m'approche trop proche, puis je dois remercier mon ami anonyme qui m'avait donné, bien sûr, un livre pour que je fasse, bien sûr, de ce livre que j'ai eu moi-même, de ce livre, apprécier l'Asperger. C'est quelque chose qui m'a vraiment aidé de la conséquence, qui m'a vraiment aidé moi-même pour comprendre ma différence, puis mes vulnérabilités aussi, parce qu'à cause de l'Asperger, mais j'ai des vulnérabilités, là. T'sais, on vous abuse, des malentendus ou des choses que nous, on ne comprend pas, les certaines choses, ça vient difficile pour nous. Fait que les gens peuvent utiliser ça contre nous. Fait que ce livre-là, apprécier l'Asperger, le syndrome de l'Asperger, je dois remercier mon ami anonyme qui n'a pas été mon ami à cause de l'argent parce que je n'en ai jamais eu, mais apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Appreciating Asperger Syndrome en anglais, c'est quelque chose que je recommande à tous et toutes, bien sûr, de l'appréciation de l'Asperger. Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Fait que c'est juste de se savoir, se connaître. C'est quoi l'Asperger, puis qu'est-ce qui n'est pas, c'est pas une maladie mentale. Je vais maintenant arrêter de parler de l'Asperger. De moi-même, je vais parler de ce que je mets sur la table quand que mon travail en tant qu'artiste, athlète indépendant. Puis ça, c'est le plus important, c'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ici des belles fleurs, il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation, mais cher, car est dû au fait qu'on est rendu à payer un record d'intérêt sur la dette. Aujourd'hui, bien sûr, on paye un niveau record d'intérêt sur la dette publique. On est rendu à payer un record d'intérêt sur la dette publique. Donc, il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Qu'est-ce que c'est dans cette théorie? Puis pourquoi je me prononce ainsi? Car, en effet, qu'on paye, c'est le niveau d'intérêt qu'on paye est rendu énorme. C'est énorme aujourd'hui. Puis pas juste ça, mais puis ça s'applique pour le Canada, les États-Unis. Le niveau, bien sûr, de carte de crédit qu'on utilise. Moi, j'ai pas de carte de crédit, j'ai une ligne de crédit à la Banque Royale. Fait que j'ai 10 000 de dette, je paye 10,44% d'intérêt. Fait que bien sûr, ça ne s'applique pas dans la même manière parce que j'ai pas de carte de crédit, mais c'est 3 pressions économiques pour le Canada et les États-Unis parce que ma TRD, il faut que ça soit implémenté au niveau binational. Bien sûr, ça fait partie de ma stratégie bipolaire. Ma stratégie bipolaire, bien sûr, c'est la stratégie bipolaire pour la résolution. La domination du 20e siècle, ça n'a rien à voir avec la psychiatrie, la psychologie, par exemple. Donc, on va prendre la TRD, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire, puis à cause des 3 problèmes majeurs qui viennent nous frapper, le Canada et les États-Unis, c'est le surendettement et le coût de la vie n'arrête pas d'augmenter, là. Les prix augmentent à chaque jour, c'est incroyable, ça augmente de la gauche, la droite, le lait, je viens d'acheter gratitude les vaches, puis les fermiers, je vous bénis, je vous donne des petites chansons rock'n'roll pour les fermiers de la belle province, les travailleurs du Québec, les pompiers, les boulangers, les infirmières, je chante toujours pour eux autres, que ce soit par la rouge, à la gauche, à la droite, dans le danse, en bec, dans un cercle, bec, bisous, bisous, cadeau, que je vous donne un cadeau, la TRD sur la table. Il y a ces 3 pressions-là. Le coût de la vie, ça augmente là. Ça n'arrête pas là, d'augmenter. Ça ne finit pas. Depuis 3 ans et demi, ça augmente. Les prix augmentent. Je vous donne un avis, comme je le dis toujours. Qu'est-ce qui augmente, comme que ça augmente? Bien sûr, mes gaufres, c'était $1, là, 3 ans et demi, ça a augmenté 1,25, puis là, ça a augmenté 1,35. Fait que ça, c'est 25%, puis ça, c'est 39%. Fait que c'est beaucoup en termes de pourcentage. Paiement de salaire, moi, je dis, même les loyers, tu sais, mon loyer, c'est correct. Je vais pas dire combien je paye, je vais juste dire que c'était en bas de 10. Peut-être c'était 10 $, là. Peut-être c'était 10 $ d'augmentation. Je vous dirais pas que c'était pas plus que 10. C'est ça que je vais me prononcer par mois, tu sais. Par 12 mois, ça fait 120, là. C'est quand on calcule pour les 12 mois par année, ça va faire un 120, c'est quand même un peu plus. Mais 10 $, ça fait 10 $, bien sûr. De la communication, bien sûr, pour ça face dans l'ensemble des citoyens et citoyennes qui sont ici, mes cousines, mes tantes, pour bien sûr l'apprentissage de la TRD, parce qu'il faut qu'on fasse à cause de ça. Les cartes de crédit, ils n'arrêtent pas d'augmenter, tu sais. Les cartes de crédit, ils n'arrêtent pas d'augmenter. C'est un record là, pour le Canada, les États-Unis, mais maintenant, à travers la belle province, le Québec, les États-Unis, les 10 territoires, 10 provinces, 3 territoires, et bien sûr, les 50 États, ça passe la carte de crédit, ça achète avec, ça passe la carte de crédit, ça achète avec la carte de crédit. Fait que c'est des choses que vous-même, vous devrez dire dans ce point de concordance qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui à le dire, qu'il y a du surendettement. Et c'est sûr que ça fait de la pression, bien sûr, avec ce surendettement, les loyers qui viennent d'augmenter, le coût de la vie qui vient d'augmenter en plus, ça n'arrête pas. Puis en plus, la dette, le surendettement, tu sais, il y a un surendettement. Puis en plus de ça, bien sûr, les salaires stagnent. Il y a bien des grèves, là. Les grèves, tout ça, ça a donné 2-3%, 4,4% en moyenne en 5 ans depuis la COVID a commencé en février 2020. Fait que c'est ça le problème majeur. C'est pour ça que je veux la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, méchant. Il faut faire l'implémentation de ma TRD. Je voudrais vous dire qu'il y aurait une autre solution, mais c'est... OK. Pas exactement la TRD en tant que telle, mais ça peut être, bien sûr, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, dans ce point de la situation qu'on est rendu maintenant. Et bien sûr, dans ce point qu'on veut faire ici, je dois dire la gratitude avant que je dise que la TRD, il faut que je m'hydrate bien comme il le faut, là, parce que c'est sûr qu'il y a un surendettement, bien sûr, dans ce monde. Et bien sûr, mes citoyens viennent ici. J'adore voir le monde qui vient ici à ma deuxième maison. Juste, s'il vous plaît, ne pas polluer là-dedans. Si vous allez mettre ça dans les vidanges, ça va dans les vidanges, puis rock'n'roll, parce qu'on essaie de préserver ici. C'est pas juste ma montagne, c'est pas juste ma maîtresse, la forêt, c'est pas juste mon docteur, là. Ça appartient à tous, là. Fait que ça, je dois dire salutations. Je me demande toujours comment vous avez fait les travailleurs publics pour emmener les tuyaux en haut, là. Ça a été contre la... Tu sais, dans la montagne, là, c'est quand même quelque chose, là, du point de vue de l'ingénierie, là, que vous avez fait pour bâtir ça. Puis bien sûr, ça a amené, bien sûr, l'Internet ici. L'Internet Wi-Fi, là. Wi-Fi ici. Fait que vous avez l'Internet, l'accès à l'Internet, un point d'accès à l'Internet ici. Puis vous avez, bien sûr, ça pour voir. Fait que c'est quelque chose que je dois saluer parce que je vais m'hydrater, puis on va parler de la solution pour l'Empire, le fusionnement de l'Empire du Canada, du Québec et des États-Unis ensemble dans l'union perpétuelle de l'Empire républicain démocrate dans le 21e siècle pour la domination et dominion, bien sûr, bénévole total du 20e siècle dans l'instant qu'on a rendu. That's what we gotta get doing, man. C'est ça qu'il faut qu'on fasse, bien sûr, dans la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette dans certaines instances, bien sûr qu'il faut que je le fasse moi-même dans ce point de convergence. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la dette, je vais vous discuter maintenant de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. On va apprendre toutes les choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse parce qu'on est rendu à un point d'avoir la difficulté du point de vue de pouvoir payer les factures. C'est pour le Canada et les États-Unis, puis c'est pour tout le monde, c'est pour l'individu, pour le collectif, pour l'Empire aussi. Qu'est-ce qu'on va fonder ensemble? Donc la TRD, théorie de la refusion. Théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient bien sûr la stratégie, bien sûr bipolaire, pas encore une fois pas bipolaire de la manière de la psychiatrie ni de la psychologie, c'est la théorie bipolaire. Ça, je discute ça juste à faire avec la géopolitique. Ma stratégie, la géopolitique s'appelle la stratégie bipolaire pour la domination et dominion bénévole du 21e siècle, par la fusion, bien sûr, du Canada et des États-Unis dans un complexe démocrate impérial républicain. Fait que la TRD, ça fait partie. La TRD, dans ma théorie de la refusion de la dette, est inclus la théorie d'intégration monétaire. C'est quoi cette théorie? C'est la théorie que les Européens ont fait de l'implémentation dans le 20e siècle, ça fait longtemps, puis ils ont détruit leur banque nationale, les Allemands, les Italiens, les Français, les Belges, plusieurs pays, puis ils ont fait de la création d'une banque centrale européenne qui ont mis en circulation une monnaie commune, l'euro. Donc, nous, on va faire pareil. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, son 10 000, son 10 000, de côte à côte, mon 10 000, son 10 000, votre 10 000, de côte à côte. Moi, j'ai 10 000 $, donc on va prendre, moi, j'ai 10 000 $, 10 000 $ de dette sur ma ligne de crédit à la Banque royale du Canada. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, toute cette dette publique-privée, bien sûr, on va la mettre ensemble. On va faire l'addition de cette dette publique-privée. On va faire premièrement la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée du Canada dans la devise des États-Unis. On va mettre ensemble, faire l'addition de toute la dette publique privée canadienne. On va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique canadienne de côte à côte dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire l'addition avec la dette publique privée des États-Unis et tout l'argent en circulation. Et cet argent-là, ça va fonder une nouvelle banque pour le Canada et les États-Unis, qu'on va mettre en circulation une autre monnaie qu'on va appeler l'UI, U.unité, A.échange, U. universel. UI, on ne s'ostinera pas parce qu'en anglais, c'est la même chose. UI, U. U, point unité, A, point échange, U, point universel. U, point unité, A, point échange, U, point universel. L'unité d'échange universelle. Et bien sûr, avec cet argent-là, on va faire bien du bien par l'implémentation de la TRD. On va financer les gens à faire de l'entraînement physique. On va financer les gens à faire de l'entraînement physique. Bâtir, construire les 44 tunnels dans le cadre d'une guerre thermonucléaire, bien sûr. Et bien sûr, dans le cas de cette guerre thermonucléaire, on va avoir comme contingence pour la continuité et la survie du collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord pour bâtir ces 44 tunnels. Il faut bien qu'on commence à les bâtir, qu'on les construire, les 44 tunnels, dans ce cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. Fait qu'on va financer les gens au tourisme aussi. Ça va faire du bien, parce que moi, ça fait du bien quand j'ai traversé le Canada. En 2017, 17 et en 2019, j'ai prévu bien sûr qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale. Fait que, c'est ça, j'ai la preuve, j'ai la vidéo en ligne. Fait qu'on va faire l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Et bien sûr, cette théorie, on va la mettre en fonction. Fait qu'avec ça, on va faire beaucoup de travail public. On va réparer les infrastructures, on va réparer les ponts, on va financer les gens en entraînement physique, on va financer la construction de plus de centrales hydro-Québec. On va bien sûr financer les gens en entraînement physique. Un grand partenariat public-privé, on va finir avec la frontière. Il n'y aura plus de frontières. On va faire un passeport commun, on va se fusionner avec les États-Unis pour en perpétuer l'Empire, l'union de l'Empire républicain démocrate perpétuel. On va faire la constitution de cette troisième partie pour la fusion du Canada des États-Unis. On va faire la défense de côte à côte. On va faire un grand recensement. Ainsi qu'on va faire, bien sûr, les nouveaux passeports biométriques. On va financer les gens au tourisme. Et un grand partenariat public-privé, ça va prendre un grand et gros partenariat public-privé on va bâtir les quatre bâtiments, le temple de la déesse oubliée, on va bâtir sur la frontière Canada-États-Unis le colisée sportif le plus important et gros au monde. Canada-États-Unis, sur la frontière des États-Unis, moi et Donald Trump, on va faire un match de boxe parce que depuis 2018, je fais appel à Donald Trump pour me combattre dans un combat de boxe à cause de grand-père. Donald Trump il a fait l'erreur d'imposer des tarifs sur l'aluminium et l'acier, donc on va devoir faire un combat de boxe et prêter allégeance les gens, cette famille, le temple de la déesse oubliée qu'on va bâtir, ainsi que, bien sûr, bien d'autres biens communs pour le public, puis pour le privé, financer les gens à faire l'entraînement physique, et bien sûr, ces choses qu'on va faire, bien sûr, dans le domaine d'où on est rendu ici. Je vais t'enterrer un tiers ici, temple de la déesse, la pyramide écarlate, la maison du dragon, un tiers de moi au Père Caroli à Hampstead, correction Hampton, à New Jersey, et bien sûr, Hampton est bien sûr aux pyramides, bien sûr, vous pouvez le faire, bien sûr, dans ce domaine où qu'on soit, bien sûr, dans ce domaine où qu'on est rendu en haut, bien sûr, pour le faire dans ce chose d'où qu'on est rendu sur la montagne, pour le faire dans ce point de conséquence ici en haut, bien sûr, de la montagne, le sommet de la montagne, pour le faire, bien sûr, une espèce de belles espèces de caractère pour l'Empire, le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, pour se faire en conséquence, bien sûr, de la faire dans le séquence d'où qu'on soit rendu ici, bien sûr, d'avoir cette opportunité d'avenir sur la montagne, bien sûr, pour les voir, ces belles créatures que je vais appeler amour.